Hello everyone, welcome to What If Cid Defeated the Diabolos Cult and Zombie Apocalypse Happened Part 2. Before we start, please go support Lance783 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Cid is a male. Chapter 27, Remastered. Hopes. Shadow's Fate. I have some news, Alpha-sama. It seems that Zeta and Miss Claire's training is going well according to plan. A mansion was visible from a large desk. An elf with blonde hair and pointy ears wearing dark clothing sat with some papers in what used to be the place where the one known as Shadow used to be. An elf with long black hair and equally long ears wearing slightly different clothes of the same color stood nearby with some papers giving the alleged report. That doesn't matter anymore. Alpha-sama? He's not here anymore, we failed him. Alpha SA-. We swore we'd get stronger 3 years ago so we could be with him, so we could live up to his expectations, but I see we're just bragging. The truth is I'm just a weak coward who can't even do the simplest task. But if I learned anything from Shadow-sama, it's that he loved this as much as we did. That's why we can't leave it like this. That would be insulting his pride. The last thing left of him. Ganma. Why yes? Alpha looked up, revealing her face, which was full of tears, while she still slightly hid her gaze, holding what was a pencil tightly to the point of breaking it. She didn't even try to hide what she felt. It was all useless now. I can't even look at the other shadows and tell them that everything will be better because I made a promise. That we would all be with him by his side in our dream, that we would all support him. But Ganma, tell me something. How can I look at everyone and give them an order after all this? I've been trying to communicate with Delta, with Epsilon, with Beta, even with Eta, and no one answers my calls. I tried to be strong and be able to have a meeting where we tried to find a way to solve everything, and we couldn't find anything. We can't even protect the person we care about most, and now we're going to carry his legacy? No me. Don't talk nonsense. Ganma looked down at the dazzled floor. Alpha just sat there staring into space. I'm sorry, Ganma, I know you're trying to cheer us all up. You were always so kind to me, even when I was a terrible leader. You were there for me with the reports. When I thought Shadow saw us as useless, you were there. It pains me to admit it, but even you could be a better future leader than I was. That's not true, Alpha-sama, I could never be like you. None of us would be, we all follow you and Shadow-sama. You two gave meaning to our lives, you wouldn't even be 1% of that. Ganma. I'm trying hard not to leave this place. I promised I would be strong for him, but the truth is, I can't stand it anymore. I'm trying to resist as much as possible. My life was dedicated to Shadow-sama. Without him, everything loses meaning. I no longer have value. If I haven't left for a while, it's because I need to do my last duties. No, Alpha-sama, no, please don't say that if you leave Mitsugoshi. I know you can take care of it, Ganma. You're the only one I trust in my absence. No! I don't want any other leader than you, Alpha-sama. Reconsider what you're saying. We can't leave this like this. Alpha stood up from her chair and walked over to what used to be the windows at the back of her desk. She rested her hands on the windows, looking up at the sky with a dejected look. Her cheeks, her eyes, lacking the intense, leader-like glow that used to characterize her, had all disappeared. Was there only an empty shell left? I refuse to believe this will end like this. Zeta is strange, but there won't be any problems if you keep an eye on her and try to encourage her to do spy missions. Epsilon and Beta are good on any type of mission. Alpha-sama? Eta is always busy in her lab, experimenting with numbers or some shadows. If she tries to ask you for proof, scold her and don't let her near the new guests. Alpha-sama, react. Delta likes pork chops, but she tends to make a big mess. Please take good care of her and don't spoil her with sweets. Ganma approached Alpha, quickly throwing away his report papers. When he got close enough, he held his shoulders with his hands until he looked at Alpha, who was delirious and staring into space. Alpha continued talking as if it were nothing, repeating the same phrase over and over. Alpha-sama? React, Alpha-sama! Zeta is strange, but there won't be any problems if you keep an eye on her and try to encourage her to do spy missions. Epsilon and Beta are good at any kind of mission. Alpha Sama! Delta likes pork chops, but she tends to make a big mess. Please take good care of her and don't spoil her with sweets. Alpha fell slowly. Gamma caught her before she fell and leaned her head back. Alpha kept repeating the same phrase over and over again. Numbers! Someone come quickly! Gamma let out a loud scream. Soon the door was abruptly opened. Gamma-sama, what's wrong? Alpha-sama? Don't stay there and help me. Why yes. I'm so sorry Alpha-sama, at least sleep peacefully, leave the rest to me. Gamma hit Alpha's neck, leaving her asleep. She ended up falling but was held by Gamma, who was later helped by 2 numbers to carry her, who took her from the room. Gamma-sama, what happened? Why Alpha-sama was dash. 334 Please try to contact the shadows that can join. About that. Yeah? Epsilon-sama is missing. We haven't found her for a few days. Huh? Beta-sama, we've tried calling her, but she refuses to leave her room, and if we insist, she attacks us. So is Eta-sama. And Delta-sama is missing too. Zeta-sama recently finished training, but she said she wouldn't answer calls and that they shouldn't bother her, that she only has one goal and that's it. It can't be true. I'm afraid no shadow is available, Gamma-sama. Shadow-sama, give me strength, what would you do right now? Flashback. Why would a person like you do anything with me? Didn't I tell you before? My life has lost meaning since Hades-sama killed the only person I care about in my life. I'm not talking about that. Huh? Did you even hear what I said? I heard it. So why do you? I just can't accept your help. I am the Eminence in the shadows. I lurk in the shadows, I hunt in the shadows, the darkness cannot overcome me. Nothing can. You sound very confident in your strength, yet you died. Ah, that's right, I died for a version of me who fulfilled his dream. I didn't even fight, should that be a compliment to die like that? I had my dream to die before someone, but why despite that I don't feel satisfied? Why do I feel in my heart that something was missing? I wanted a battle where I would fight with all my strength as a part of the important plot of a secondary character, while the others mourn his death and leave a great legacy. However, I didn't plan that plot yet. I still have many things to learn as an Eminence in the shadows. Therefore, I denied dying in a place like this. Whatever. You'd never be able to defeat Lord Hades even if you trained here for 1,000 years. But the idea that the Eminence in the shadows has a subplot in hell and I managed to conquer it doesn't sound bad either. One of my alternate dreams was to be a demon king or someone evil to defeat. I can become that. Although it would involve me leaving my role as Eminence in the shadows and someone else inheriting it. Even so, I don't feel like dying yet, even if nothing can stop me and only I can kill myself. Then I will expand my power so much that not even any alternate version of me will be able to stop me. Nothing, absolutely nothing will be able to stop the Eminence in the shadows. I will return from the darkness and continue my role until I decide to retire definitively. That is my dream. Hey, are you listening to me? What a good line I took. I'm wonderful, cuckoo. Hey! Did you hear what I said? Yeah. I didn't hear anything. So, now that you understand the importance of the matter and how fortunate you are to have a princess of the underworld aiding you in battle, will you accept my request? No. That dash. I heard every word you said. It's an interesting request, but you know something? When the flames of purgatory reach their peak, only the shadows will clear it until nightfall. A figure will reveal himself who will decide fate. Hey! I walked away from Lilith. Let's see if this is the underworld. Does that mean there are dangerous unexplored areas in this place? My body certainly lost its ability to strengthen itself from the moment I became so strong that no one could defeat me. I will defeat everyone and take the power I obtained. And then I will come for you, Hades, and have my revenge against myself. nothing can against me. Where are you going? Hey! That's right. Where am I going? I don't know where the areas I want to enter are. I guess I'll need to rely on Lilith for a bit on this trip. I will embark on a journey throughout the underworld. I want to defeat all the legendary creatures of this place and end it all. You're a princess here. You must know where the places I point out are. Why, yes, but even if I accompany you, I'm not a tool you can use tirelessly. My goal is to kill Hades, don't forget that. I refuse to follow you on a tedious journey. Huh! Who said I'd use you? I want you to guide me to all the places. You can stay here if you don't want to come. Are you still holding that stupid idea that you can take on the people of the underworld? Yeah. You're only human. A human like you could never. I think I saw a path. Hey, don't ignore me! TCH. You leave me no choice. If your wish is to die, so be it. Listen carefully because I'll only say it once. My acting was definitely masterful. Damn right, I'll end the world. Summon my new minions, the 12 nightmares that serve me and wreak havoc on the world. It's certainly a good role as a villain/demon king. Although, when I saw myself, I felt nostalgic. It was like traveling back in time to when I was still a shadowy powerhouse. When did I stray from the path of being one? It was kind of exciting to be a shadowy powerhouse again, in honor of my old self. I'm sure he wanted to die if that was really me. For someone stronger. But I think I overdid it. Should I have given myself more hope that I could put up a good fight? No, that would be a disappointment even to myself. And all this started because I found that mysterious lake that apparently led me to the past. When I realized it, I thought I could take the role of the long-awaited villain. It would be a masterful twist if the Eminence in the shadows went from someone neutral to the other side. Who was the enemy of my verse? It was Cid Kagenou, the Eminence in the shadows. Even my role when I acted as an enemy and pretended to betray the others was sublime. I began to walk slowly to what was available was my throne seat, which had dark fire decorations on both edges. I decided to add heads of some monsters that I hunted to break the cliché of skulls sounded repetitive, although it was not a bad idea. I wonder how Alpha and the others are? Have they returned? If so, I hope they continue my legacy in my other world. But certainly the plot of trying to save their lord from darkness does not disgust me at all. But even for me, it would be a little cruel that I would prefer to avoid it, since I have enough with these shadows to involve the others as my new NPCs. Although the idea is good, my past self disappointed me. For a moment when our swords clashed, my hand trembled a little. I felt the adrenaline run through my veins that excited me and released more power, but as soon as I did, I was already having the advantage. At that moment I said to myself, oh, so he too. Could it be the excitement of becoming so strong that now nothing can stop me? As a demon king, who will stop me? Will I fall into depression waiting for that plot? That's what my character would say. However, there are always plot twists, I guess. I sat on my king's throne. It was comfortable, although the edge where I sat felt slightly hard. I put some slime where I was sitting to make it feel softer. Do my subordinates really treat me like a skull that doesn't feel pain in the buttocks? Whatever. Now all that's left is to wait. I think the chaos I caused was enough for today to give the warning, so I will withdraw my troops and wait a while to attack again. Revered Shadow-sama, I have reports. Don't call me revered. My apologies, my lord. What is the report? Our troops have successfully advanced. Cult members are making decisions, but none are challenging so far. Excellent, everything is going according to plan. What's the order? Withdraw the troops. I'm going to take care of something important, and I need them out. Very well understood, Lord Shadow. Actually, I won't be taking care of anything. I just said it as an excuse, or these guys would continue. Well, I could get back to some activity. I don't like being a demon king all the time. Chapter 28, Remastered. Beginning. I have to try to gather information if I want to gain everyone's trust, Or at least some who can support us, but where will I get valuable information that can convince them? Why can't I think of anything? This situation is so frustrating. Ganma-sama, we have news! Omega and Kai opened the door while looking at Ganma, who looked at them seriously. What's going on? We investigated the lake where Shadow-sama went from. Well, I still can't process what happened, I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Omega. Get to the point, that doesn't matter now. Well, we went on our own in our search for Epsilon-sama until on the way we saw the site of the battle. We detected traces of enormous magical power near those of our Lord Shadow. One similar. But what caught our attention most was one that we couldn't decipher. A strange amount of mana gathered in one place. Mana gathered in one place? When we went to investigate, we found a kind of lake with a large magic circle activated. It was nothing more than a circle. It looked like an accumulation of mana. That's strange. Portals don't last forever, do they? After a certain number of uses, they disappear, and if they're not used, they follow the wearer until they're used. That's why we believe this is something more. We also have a possible theory that the guy wreaking havoc in Midgar has something to do with all this. If that's true, perhaps we can find a way to find out what's going on. However, I can't risk the numbs on such a dangerous mission without Shadow support, and I don't feel good about the enemy stopping their attacks. Well, we also found something else. Anything else? There were some traces of golden fur. We analyzed them, and I think it was Zeta-sama and the faction. Zeta? SSI. What is she thinking, going alone without warning on such a dangerous mission? Ganma-sama, this is our report. We await further orders. Okay. Rest for today while I take my time to process everything. Thanks, Kai-san, Omega-san. Okay. We're leaving. Kai and Omega walked towards the door, and in a few seconds they disappeared from Ganma's sight and left the place without leaving any trace, as if it were almost instantaneous. Zeta. What are you thinking? Certainly, even though she's the best for this kind of mission, I don't want anything to happen to her because of being reckless. Even if I send someone to track her, I'm sure she'll notice and stop us from following her. I just hope this all goes well and gets better soon. How are you doing with your injuries? I don't have time for these idiots, Dash. Don't be reckless. I've finished your training with Zeta-sama, and you're exhausted and injured. You can't take everything lightly. Even so, if I don't do it, I won't be satisfied. Not until Cid. We're all as upset as you are about what happened with Shadow-sama. Stop telling me that. You all do the same thing, you say you feel the same, you don't feel a bit of it, and your name isn't Shadow-sama, it's Cid. Don't you think you're a little selfish for thinking you're the person who suffers the most in the world? Me selfish? You're telling me that, someone who lost their little brother, who was in a faction and was someone else for who knows how long I barely knew about, and it was like this. A stranger comes along offering to train me and tells me she feels the same way I do? I don't know your definition of selfish. So? You want to talk about sad things? You know what each of this faction went through to get to where they are now, and you come to me with the idea that you suffered more? Now calm down, the two of you, let's be friends. -665 smiled, separating Claire from 664, causing them both to turn in opposite directions as soon as they looked at each other. A sound of high heels hitting the floor began to sound slowly while both were distracted. The sound gradually intensified until it stopped. The break is over. Two Iris Claire-san? Who are you? -664 hit Claire's head, who held her head while looking at it. Oh, why did you do that? Even though you are Shadow-sama's sister, I have more respect for Lambda-sama. She's the one in charge of training us all here, she's your superior. Ella? It's okay, 664. It's normal that he doesn't know the ranks yet. SSI. Both numbers knelt before the girl in front of them, except for Claire. Lambda slowly approached her. From today I will take charge of your training at Zeta-sama's request. Zeta? Miss Zeta is busy with private matters that I won't mention. Never mind that. Now get changed and we'll begin training. Wait, Lambda-sama, Claire-san is just recovering from her wound, she dash. Okay. I want to do it. Yay? I know you care a lot about me, 665, but it's my duty to train until I find whoever did this to my brother. It's something very personal, and I can't let anyone stop me. You won't last long with those wounds, but I must admit your spirit is annoying. The girl with long black hair smiled at such words from her companion as she approached what was her new combat teacher. I'm ready. Aren't you using the slime? Using a power my brother created would be disrespectful to him. I'll train myself in my own way. Whatever you want. Now what am I supposed to do? Even if I accept this Demon King plot, I no longer have any opponents to give me problems. Perhaps it will be necessary to create a protagonist in the midst of the chaos I am causing that will stop me in some of these 100 years. My goal of living more than 300 years is still valid. If in this time no one manages to stop me, I suppose I will only have to live in peace. Although I like to give development to people. I held my chin and thought of some strategies. Perhaps I can create a hero of eminence in the shadows of my former self? No. That sounds very difficult considering the outcomes. Shadow-sama, I have come as you requested. I asked your kind to find some valuable items on my own to live these 300 years. Although I can send the nightmares to do it for me, it's more comforting to do it myself. I could also kill others to get what I want, but I don't want to go from here to there either. Red matches you very well, Shadow-sama. My costume was now a different color than the one I normally wore. I really liked the costume I used as an eminence in the shadows, but now that I'm a demon king, I must have a different look than my old costume. I don't like the color red very much, so I only used it in a few sections. My costume was now a combination of red/white/gray/small gold edges. Well, about that, I need to know if you know some of the locations with the most money value. Valuable locations? What kind of locations is Shadow-sama referring to? Where the strongest or richest men are in a place, whether far or near. I understand now what you want, Shadow-sama. You seek to defeat them to demonstrate your power. Dog. If so, I know some that can help you, but they are very. It doesn't matter. I'll go alone and finish them all off. But. You object? And no, in that case I'll tell the rumors I heard. I wonder where you're going, Pachi. Alexia gave a slight sigh as she grabbed both cheeks in disgust. Why do I worry so much? Tisk, it's annoying. But still, he hasn't come back for weeks and I haven't heard from him. Maybe something bad happened with Pachi. It's annoying being locked inside. I can't know anything. I got out of bed and headed to the bathroom, not before taking my clothes I would use and my towel. When I walked to the bathroom, I prepared to enter by opening the doorknob. I left my clothes aside and began to take off my clothes slowly. Until I finished, I opened the hot shower knob to start showering. While the water fell on me, I was somewhat thoughtful. It had been 5 months since the fall of Midgar to Shadow Garden. The streets were unsafe and prohibited any student from leaving. Even the High Command did not dare to face Shadow's organization or whatever was outside and limited themselves to watching the school, which had already become a refuge for people who were constantly saved and was expanded into several sections to make it more of a refuge. There were always meetings of those who led this protection. My sister was included in them, and so was I. Although I had a lower position than her, so I did not go to battle. I felt so underestimated that it made me nauseous. I just hope Pachi and his sister are okay, and one day I can figure out what the hell is going on right now. All I can do right now is lead this place, but it's annoying to do so even if I don't want to. Apparently, classes were also suspended so the classrooms could be converted into new rooms for people or utility rooms. Recently, Shadow was declared a high-level threat to Midgar. I think he's more famous than the Diabolos cult for doing all this, but something still doesn't add up in all of this. I know Shadow hides things and is very mysterious, but the fact that he would suddenly attack Midgar and become a completely offensive organization doesn't make any sense. Maybe I'm just digging too deep and he always had those intentions, but the thoughts never go away, no matter how hard I try. I turned the knob and got out of the shower. I dried myself off and finished changing after a while. I came out with my school uniform and the badge that denoted that I was part of the high command. And I started walking down the hallway in search of reaching the dining room. "Hey Nei-sama, don't run so fast! Catch me if you can!" The girl ran happily while her brother chased her until she felt something hard and fell to the ground. "Oh. Hey brat. Why don't you look? Do you have a problem?" "Why yeah. Nei-sama." The little boy arrived and bent down to help his sister. "Don't run in the hallways again, you damn brats. I won't be merciful next time." The subject walked with annoyance following his path. Alexia observed everything and approached the girl who had a small scrape on her knee. "Are you okay? Don't worry, I'm going to fix you up." Alexia crouched down to the little girl's height, while using both hands a small magic circle came out which began to slowly heal the wound until it was completely, with the surprised look of both children. Amazing, thank you for healing my little sister." Thank you very much." "You're welcome. But don't run in the hallways, okay? Always look around, or you'll get scolded." "Yes, yes." Alexia caressed the girl while remembering some things from her past. How Iris defended her from several bandits until she finished. She extended her hand to a little Alexia and asked her if she was okay. "Miss? It's nothing, I'm fine. Go back to your parents carefully, okay?" And they both passed by Alexia and left, not without first smiling at her and thanking her for what she did. Alexia would simply smile and raise her hand. "Nei-san, I wish I could be strong enough to protect you." "Tisk." Alexia stood up and walked back to where she was. Chapter 29, Remastered. Nei-san's training. Lambda looked at Claire for a few moments until giving the warning that she would start. She barely mentioned the word. Claire lunged at the ladder with all her might. There was an exchange of swords between the two, but Claire was surprised to see that Lambda didn't hesitate. No effort was evident on his face, and he didn't back down. Unlike her, who was giving everything she had to try to move her, she simply kept going. "That's all?" "Not yet." Claire stepped back again and prepared for the next attack. She brandished her sword and concentrated her mana, shooting out at high speed again. Lambda just stood there, waiting for the attack. She watched Claire lunge forward, and before she could stop her attack, she was no longer in the same position. "That trick won't do you any good." Lambda quickly turned his gaze and with great speed stopped a surprise attack from behind. Claire was in the same position. "It's not possible. Did she manage to see me even though I attacked her from a blind spot?" A flash would come out of Lambda, taking Claire away from her. "Go!" Claire would crash to the ground at high speed. "Lambda-sama is very strong." "Of course she is. It's not for nothing that she's one of the tallest numbers and the one in charge of training. Do you think Claire-sama can surprise her?" "I doubt it. Since we've been here, we haven't met any numero capable of surprising Lambda-sama. Just because she's Shadow-sama's sister doesn't mean she has his talent." "I trust Claire-sama." "Really?" "Yes, something tells me she'll win." "Well, if that's what you think. You can't beat him." "Do you think I don't know? He wouldn't like you to get hurt that much." "That doesn't matter anymore. Because he's no longer here, he's no longer here. My life lost its meaning when my brother left." "It could have been me, but why did it have to be him? Do you really value your life so little just because he's gone? A witch like you wouldn't understand." "Maybe. What do you want?" "I'm training. If you don't have anything to say, let me train." Suddenly, Claire's consciousness would reflect a peculiar place. Aurora sat in her usual attire, her long dark dress, while Claire was wearing her schoolgirl outfit. A giant blackboard materialized near Aurora. "What's going on?" "I'll explain. Remember when I told you that mark on your arm was going to help you?" "Yes, but what does that have to do with the current situation?" "We're both connected. You're a vessel of mine, in short, but out of respect for him, I let you have control and only deny it when you're in danger. What do you have with my brother? Why are you helping me and why are you doing this? Let's just say he gave me a beautiful memory that remains deep in my heart. Memory? Back to the topic. As you are my suitable vessel, you can use my power. However, due to your inexperienced body, you do not have the ability to fully utilize my power. I know you already told me that. Actually. Stop playing and tell me what you're up to. Wow, that's no way to talk to someone who saved you. But I'll ignore that comment. I find it hard to believe that you helped me. Just as I can materialize my power in you and take control, you can use my power without necessarily losing control. Wait, that means that you could always turn to me without me at the same time. However, my powers are not something you understand. It requires rigorous training to master them, and using too much power can severely damage your body. I see. But there's always a but, isn't there? That's what I'm here for. Huh! You can speed up that process if you train here and also train to master my power. With my help, I'll guide you. Isn't that surprising? So I can still be. Sniff. Huh! Wait a minute, why are you crying? Knowing that I can be useful for something that maybe I can finally help my brother makes me so happy. Aurora smiled slightly, until a reflection of shadow appeared behind Claire. Seeing that, Aurora shed a few small tears but quickly turned away. When I finish guiding your sister's shadow, and have my powers so she can become a person you'll be proud of, my work will be done and these memories will go with you soon. What's up, Aurora? Nothing. Time's running out, so you'll have to come back. Huh! Wait a second, Aurora! The reality between them cracked and returned to reality. Claire woke up and saw Lambda 665 and 664 standing next to her. MH? What happened? You suddenly collapsed during training, and we gave you first aid. Are you okay? SSI. Shall we continue or do you want to rest? I think we should let her rest, Lambda-sama. She is. No. Let's continue. Are you crazy? You just fainted and your wounds aren't even fully healed yet. It's obvious you need to rest. Why, yes, I agree. Even so, I want to try something with Lambda-sama before I fall. Lambda sighed at Claire's words. Her will was admirable. She was truly willing to do anything, even after fainting. No one who trained so hard had the same perseverance as her. All right. But Lambda-sama, if something happens again, we will stop. But still. Girls, thank you so much for your support. Claire smiled slightly, seeing them worried about her. 665 didn't seem worried about her, but it was clear that deep down she was a little. Claire walked slowly over to pick up her sword, which was lying on its side. As she bent down, she noticed the mark on her left arm was glowing. She looked at it and raised her arm in surprise. She began to release a deep red mana that began to cover everything in a slightly distorted space. This term could refer to a dimensional rift, but it was only pure power. Minus 664. 665. Lambda were covered from the wind pressure generated by the mana. He revealed himself to Claire. Her arms were covered in a red substance. Her eyes changed color, now purple, and her wounds had completely healed. The blood she had spilled turned liquid and covered her body like a kind of armor. Came Cid? Did his appearance change? I can feel his power is different, and did his blood itself become some kind of substance? Let's say that only your blood is now part of your power. Aurora? Aurora fainted and Claire closed her eyes shortly after. I understand, Aurora. If this is your power, I will try to use it in the best way possible. Claire made a movement with her hand and from it came several red blood tentacles that were shot out like projectiles. Lambda took a big leap and cut some of the tentacles in front of her with her sword. It's fast. This materialization magic is similar to the slime Shadow-sama gave us. So this is Shadow-sama's sister's power? Let's see how far you can go, successor. Incredible. Aurora, did you always have this power? Claire felt a presence above her, and could see Lambda approaching her quickly. Her sword was loaded in her hand. Don't be distracted. Claire, however, tried to move her own arm away without her being able to command it. She materialized more red blood which attacked Lambda in a barrage of attacks. The latter was surprised and tried to use her power to cut them off. You don't know how to use my powers, do you? Don't worry, I'll give you a hand and just watch how they are used. I didn't ask for your help, but it's okay, I'll accept it. That's all? Lambda continued her attack and was close to Claire. However, Claire materialized blood cords that immobilized Lambda, and a final one took her sword. Now who's the weak one? Claire attacked Lambda with her tentacles. Lambda used the slime as a shield, but it was useless. The slime was pierced, and Lambda suffered severe damage, being pierced from all sides. GGUH. The blood falling from Lambda only made more attacks come to her. Aurora took advantage of her blood control to create more effective and damaging attacks. That's enough, stop! And I was just having fun. Well. Claire snapped her fingers and Lambda's bounds disappeared as her magic was deactivated. Lambda-sama! -665 and 664 quickly approached Lambda and attended to her. Did a mosquito bite you? You almost killed our teacher. Not me. Claire-sama. I think you went too far this time. It wasn't me who. Lambda opened her eyes and moved with difficulty while the two girls began to heal her. So I was defeated. Don't speak, Lambda-sama. Well done, Claire. Claire approached Lambda and helped lift her up. The slime was slowly healing its wounds, but it needed attention. I'll go get help. You guys stay here. And -664 left and left 665 next to Claire, who was still supporting Lambda. See, Claire-sama. Don't you think that was too much? I know. Lambda-sama, excuse me for overstepping my bounds. Don't be ridiculous. You've won a battle, it's a battle, and your spirit has paid off. But if you see your strength as a curse, you won't be able to fight truly. That will only lead to more losses. Don't forget that. SSI. However, now that I've been defeated, I'm probably not the right teacher for you right now. So if you want to master your power, you'll have to figure out how to use it best yourself. Use my power myself in a better way? The powers you manifested from your left arm, only you can find the answer you seek. But if that's the case, isn't it better for me to go with some S-? That won't work, 665. The shadows right now, I won't go into details, but no one but yourself can help you, so do it. Okay, I'll try. Claire looked at her arm and clenched her fist tightly. The mystery of Aurora's power was still at stake. Claire's powers were incomplete. Is what the future held a work of fate? Chapter 30, Remastered. Mission 61. This will do, but I need something to complement it. A test subject, that'll do the trick. What are you doing? So you came. A semi-human figure was noticed at the window. As that figure approached, 2 large ears and a long tail were noticed, wearing a black suit. It was Zeta who entered the ETA lab. You generally don't accept orders or calls from any of us. Don't waste time. Why did you call me? Does it have to do with Shadow? Otherwise, I'm leaving. See. Tell me everything. Alpha-sama won't like this strategy, so I ask you not to betray me. But it is a way for the wisdom of the shadows to live on forever. I need the master's body. Analyze and explore it. If I can discover the secret of his wisdom, I may find a clue to bringing him back. No. That's impossible. If you try to do something like that without Alpha-sama's permission, you'll be executed. If you want to keep your life, I wouldn't do that. I don't care what other people think. I'm against it too. The teacher isn't your guinea pig, so. Even if the others are vulnerable right now. Zeta approached ETA with hostility. I don't care if even Alpha-sama stops me. I'm going to kill you. If that's all you had to say, I'm leaving. Zeta slowly approached the window and jumped slightly. There is still a way. That girl. That girl? Who are you talking about? I'm talking about that girl Beta brought in a while back, the one hiding in his room. If I can analyze her. As long as it's not with Shadow-sama, I won't stop you. I need you to support me. Because? Alpha-sama locked me in the lab with a magical barrier. I can't open the door. Apparently, the mere thought of using the test master bothered him greatly, or maybe he just wanted to get even with me. That's strange. Why doesn't the barrier affect me? Why does it only affect me? If I crossed it, I was hurt. Any shadow can enter, however I forbade entry. I see. You want me to bring her with you, that's why you called me. See. Sorry, but I don't have time for nonsense. I'm investigating how to bring the teacher in on my own. Ask someone else for help. If the plan succeeds, more than reviving Shadow, we'll be able to obtain complete wisdom without using him. If that girl uses it, I'll be able to find out more than just reviving him. And what's in it for me? If your idea fails, because it always does. And if Alpha and the others find out, you know it won't end well. Risk is part of science, and whatever you want and desire, I'll give it to you if you help me. I don't need your help. You'll need it. You can't do it right now, not even with a member of the new organization. No one can, but I can create artifacts with that discovery that will give us the advantage. Think about it, just for the one girl they have in the room. Is my idea worth it? Or do you want to keep looking for a way to bring the master without knowing how long it will take? Fine. I will, but you and I haven't talked. If you're going to expose me myself, I'll dash. And then? If your plan fails, we'll never speak again. Zeta got out of the window and stood to the side looking at the window. What do you need me to do? Bring me that girl without anyone seeing you. That's all? If I need materials, I'll ask you to get them for me. You're asking too much. My lab was almost completely confiscated. I'm practically a prisoner. If you want it to work, do what I tell you. Good. Wait, I swear I don't know anything about dash. The sound of a blade was heard in the air. Reddish liquid was falling from all sides, and a head had been completely blown off. Belong! Aid! A she-wolf is going to kill us! Someone knows something, someone must know something. You! Creature who dares to wreak havoc on the village, stop right now and surrender, otherwise I will use force, no matter that you are a child. Growling. I'm warning you, stay away! A girl with 2 ears next to a long tail, and a thin appearance with fangs. She was completely covered in blood. She also had a dull look in her eyes, as if she were a living corpse or an empty shell. A look that denoted neither hatred nor anger, something deeper. An emptiness that nothing could cover, an emptiness greater than that. At the same time, sweat was denoted falling from her and trembling, as if even she had trouble moving with fatigue. Dark circles were noticeable in her eyes. The girl only looked at the one in front of her path, and with a breath almost whispered she mentioned the following. Do you know where Boss is? Bossu? Who the hell are you talking about? You're guilty too, everyone will die from Delta. Delta walked slowly to the right without stopping. Every step he took gave off an insane thirst for revenge in his gaze. Although weak, he provoked great terror in everyone. Damn, she's serious. But I can't fight in this place, everyone is a refugee, and if I use too much magic power, I'll attract someone from Shadow Garden. I don't feel like I'm weak at all. She took down hundreds of forest knights by herself, and she's still standing. It's illogical that I can do anything, but at least if I'm going to die, it will be saving these people. The knight just held his sword tightly as sweat of fear slowly fell down his face. Every step he took caused him great fear, even though he already knew what his destiny might be. The fear remained in his being as if it were eternal. Delta continued moving forward until her legs felt heavy. She collapsed to the ground from exhaustion. Huh! What happened? Is she dead? Does that mean we won't die? She's not dead. She seems to be exhausted. Should I take her and chain her up? No. It's very dangerous for the Academy to find out about someone so dangerous. In the worst case, they'll use her for experiments. I can't allow that to happen again. I can't allow that to happen again. But I can't leave her here either. It's best to finish her off. Bossu, why? Huh? Why did you leave Delta? You promised we would hunt together. Is she delirious? But she's still conscious. Should I attack her? You promised that we would go hunting together, Disu. Delta began to rise with some difficulty. A few tears fell from her face as she stared at all the citizens she had attacked. She began to approach. Delta, how will Delta live without you? What are you doing there? Get away, everyone! Let's go! Everyone started to move away and ran at full speed from where the wolf girl was, including the knight, who knew that a direct battle would be a waste of time. Delta fell asleep on the floor after everything that had happened. Are you sure this is the right way? 20 gave us the location of this place, and she is known among the Numers as the best spy only below the shadows. So yes. But what if it's not this place? He mentioned something about a place where a large amount of explosive physical magic power was released. Maybe it's Delta-sama, however it could also be someone else. If that happens, we have orders to withdraw. 21. -20 and 21 advanced into the forest until they felt a great amount of magic near them. As they looked further, they could see great devastation throughout the place. Several trees snapped in half and houses destroyed. They both stopped when they saw this. We have to be careful. If it's someone else, we have to leave, understand? Can't we stay and fight? No. That's our order. If Ganma-sama says so, it's because it's serious. We can't be reckless. Good. I'll use my magic power and track potential threats nearby. -21 closed her eyes and concentrated. The entire place was dark. Except for the magical energy she detected, it had a purple hue, but the most surprising thing wasn't the magical energy itself, but the destruction all around it. Do you see anything? No. There's just a magical energy we feel. It seems there are no intruders. Good. Let's inspect. 21 and 20 approached the place. When they arrived, they were both completely shocked. Delta, one of the 7 main shadows, was there. What was Delta doing in the forest? As she is? No doubt. Delta. -20 approached where the fallen Delta was and inspected the place. Until they were finished. There were no enemies nearby or approaching. The village was destroyed and there were no infiltrators or spies. 21 instead stayed where Delta. What should we do, 21? This wasn't part of the mission. This is unexpected, but we must take her to Ganma-sama in that case. That's against the rules. And you know how Delta-sama can get if she wakes up and discovers she's being helped by strangers. We can't leave her here. If we do, enemies might come while she's sleeping. If she continues to wreak havoc, even she could be in danger. Okay. But you take her, I won't. I don't want to die. -20 carried Delta and put her on his shoulders. We have to move the mission forward and deliver the news. I'll follow her. You take charge of taking Delta-sama to Mitsugoshi. Don't be silly. Even if you're very good, you're not qualified for a mission alone, so you come. I know how to take care of myself. If I see something, I'll leave. I'll just gather information. Besides, we need to find something, otherwise, what will be left of us if we don't find something we can help with? That won't help if you die too. 60 members have already died doing research to get some information. Don't be reckless and rush ahead. Let me do it. No. Let's go back. Sorry, I won't do it. -21 escaped from the place with her magic technique. She had completely vanished from 20's sight. 21! Damn! -20 stared at Delta for a few seconds and gritted his teeth. It was either follow his partner or report what happened. I can't make a decision. Why should I? -20 sighed and looked behind him one last time. He took a great leap up a tree and ran with all his might. If you're not alive, I'll. Chapter 31, Remastered. It's been a while since I entered the underworld. In fact, how much time has passed since I entered this place? Time here, from what I understand, is different from that on Earth. On Earth it can be 10 seconds and here it is 10 years. In conclusion, 1 second is 1 year here. Although my body does not age since it is a soul, I do not know if time had something to do with it, or it was the beasts I have defeated so far, but I feel more and more. I still can't believe you single-handedly defeated Medusa, Cerberus, Minotaur, Chimera, Impotent, Diabolos, and the 7 deadly sins. Are you really human? I've never felt so good in a fight since that fight with my old self. Here I can wreak havoc without holding back and worrying about causing disasters. Now I feel invincible. Now I just want to destroy everything. I want to make the underworld my amusement park. But I'm still missing the cherries. A boss isn't a boss if it doesn't have sub-bosses. I'm missing the minor gods, and with that I'll finish everything you've built. Now what do we do? Will we continue to destroy the beings in this place? I'll show you something interesting. Huh! Watch closely. I'll show you how a true dark eminence displays his power. Again? We've been fighting in this place for over 1,000 years, and this guy just doesn't get tired? I think it was a bad idea to think this guy could help me now that I think about it. Underworld trembles before my power! Much of the underworld was covered by a strange, dark purple magical barrier. Lines of light shot out from it. Shadow just smiled as he soared into the sky. I am. What the hell is going on? And all this energy? Is it his? The only equal. Each creature looked with intrigue at the mysterious purple energy that surrounded them. Others didn't even pay attention and just continued in their eternal suffering. Others fought constantly. This was seen by the lesser gods who, upon sensing an abnormal energy in the underworld, tried to decipher what was happening and where so much magical energy was coming from. When the lesser gods learned of the amount of mana that was in the entire environment for the first time, they found out. Were they trembling? This amount of mana was too high to be from a demon, even a high-ranking one. This magical amount was absurd. Only one god could create so much magical mana that covered so much area of the underworld, especially considering how vast the place was in the gravity, plus the heat and temperatures. Was there really anyone with that much mana? Atomic. Before anything could be done, much of the underworld began to glow a purple hue that began to massively extinguish both the lost souls in their path, the demons fighting, and those who tried in vain to stop the attack. Everything was being consumed in a large radius. Lilith was under a small field that Shadow had created to prevent damage. When she opened her eyes, she saw something completely terrifying. The underworld. Much of what we knew as the underworld was destroyed, at least the main part. This is unheard of. The underworld is 3 times larger than the world of the living, and this guy managed to leave a huge crater with that attack could. The underworld trembles before me. What a good line, that's interesting. Although I could have said something better, I couldn't help it. Now that I've taken care of the weak, it's time to get the main course that's waiting for me in that castle. Shadow pointed his sword towards Hades' castle, a feat that Lilith observed with surprise. This human was definitely strange. Never in her life had she met someone who was able to withstand the atmosphere of the underworld without falling into madness. But more than that, coming out of an encounter with Hades alive and now having left this unprecedented massive crater. This person was definitely strange. Perhaps he was a demigod? Or even some god? Or a reincarnated god? That no longer mattered. What she saw in her eyes was neither human nor god. Was it something else? Is this the power of an eminence in the shadows? Her head was filled with that phrase and her soul too. Lilith's eyes shone a little again. She hoped that this guy could kill Hades and finally avenge her beloved, but she also admired his power in a certain way. Although she still saw something unattainable in Hades, for the first time in hundreds of years there is hope. Ha ha ha, wow, so you really will do it? Boy, no. Shadow-sama. Beta was at her desk. She was constantly writing papers that she threw on the floor. The room was littered with them. Each paper she wrote was an attempt to find a way to bring back the person she had loved so much for so many years and who had given meaning to her life, but each attempt was a clear failure. If only there was a way to bring you back. Wait. Return, is true, maybe there is still a way. Beta took the last page of her notebook and began to try to draw and write and detail what her possible plan was. The drawing showed Shadow and her falling into a portal to another place. That place was what were the ruins of Japan, pointed by Beta. So, with the words that Mordred guy had mentioned to her a long time ago, that this is not the only dimension and there are more worlds apart from this one, it should be possible that Shadow had fallen into one because she couldn't have completely left this existential plane. But the question was, where did Shadow fall? Perhaps if ETA and she investigated this subject together with the others, they could try to see possible alternatives and solutions. Beta's eyes lit up a bit. She finally had a clue, perhaps a possible whereabouts of her master. Without hesitation, she quickly ran out of the room, searching everywhere for a shadow until she suddenly collided with Ganma, who was walking with two numerics guarding her as bodyguards. Oh! That hurts! Eh? Beta? Ganma, I have good news. I discovered a clue that might be the way to bring Shadow-sama back. Bring Shadow-sama? But that's... Listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you. I remember that on my mission I met a guy from the Diabolos cult called Mordred, the one responsible for Rose Oriana's wedding and Ragnarok. Do you remember him? Why yes, although I don't know him, I only received his reports. I didn't mention it in my report, but I had a theory that there are constantly rotating dimensions known as realms. And that each realm is different, being from another dimension equal or different from ours. Shadow-sama must be in one of these realm dimensions. But Shadow-sama passed away. Don't you think that the kingdom where he is even if we wanted to enter it, we couldn't because it is a kingdom that is forbidden to the living? Besides, we don't know where Shadow-sama is, and if we risk going there, we die. That's why I need you. I need all of you. Perhaps if we investigate deeper into these realms, we'll get more information and how to access them if necessary. More alternatives, but at least with this my theory may be correct. Shadow-sama hasn't disappeared. He must be in a different dimension, and we just have to find him and bring him back, but I can't do it alone. Wait, Beta. Let's calm down a bit first. I'm not discrediting your information, but do you know the current status of the 7 shadows? The state of the 7 shadows? Alpha-sama, Epsilon, Zeta, Delta, you're in a delicate situation. Eta is locked down by Alpha-sama's orders. This is all a lot to process. But it's good news if what you're saying is true. Maybe we can find a way to tell everyone. Yes. These powers are complicated to use. My power isn't something you can use normally. But you've made good progress these days. You have talent. Although, besides blood control, is there anything else to your powers? Yes. Energy manipulation, whether from the environment or from the blood itself, you can use that ability to create an attack if you want to save mana. Depending on the type of attack you want to use, it will consume more mana and more time. But that step is still somewhat complicated for you. I see. I must train my body more, otherwise I'll keep hurting myself, and I can't afford to be useless anymore. Here is what you asked me for. Zeta entered the room where Ada was locked with Akane's body on his shoulders and placed her on the wooden table. Very good. What exactly are you going to do? I need to extract all the information from this girl, so I'll interrogate her first. MH? Akane began to wake up slowly and would see how she found herself in a chair tied with metal while being watched by Zeta and ETA. Akane felt scared and tried to free herself, but it was useless. She couldn't do anything. The bars were too hard for Akane. She could only moan in fear. You can't free yourself. These bars drain your mana and prevent you from using any magical powers. Aurora. Eita would approach Akane and touch her chin, staring at her seriously. What do you know about those strange artifacts you brought with you? Ada would remove the bar from Akane's mouth, which made her breathe heavily and with difficulty. Speak. Who are you? That doesn't matter now. I want you to give us all the information you have. Information? On second thought, I'd better suck it off. Iha? Suck me? No. Help. As soon as Akane mentioned that, she was silenced by Itie, who placed the bar back on her lips, preventing her from opening her mouth. Now we'll see what you're hiding. Chapter 32, Remastered. So, you're saying that Alpha-sama is in a delicate state as well? Yes. I think of the 7 shadows, Alpha-sama was the most affected. She even mentioned that I would be the new leader if anything happened to her. We can't blame her. I wasn't any better. But, with this news I really dash. Ganma began to shed a few tears. Beta noticed that when she saw that Ganma was shedding some tears, she tried to comfort Ganma, although she didn't know the reason. She only gave a slight smile, trying to cheer up her friend. At least she was glad that at this moment someone supported her idea. I'm sorry. It's the first time after so much that news manages to shock me to the point of wanting to cry. It's okay. Don't hold back if you have to. I've been taking care of Shadow Garden alone lately. I had so much work that I couldn't even think of alternatives to help our Lord. Alpha-sama's words, the state of everyone. I felt so useless. You're not. Despite everything that happened, you tried to keep Mitsugoshi and Shadow Garden in order even though it would be twice the load you could handle. I'm jealous now, but I agree with Alpha-sama that you would make an excellent leader. Why you think so? Now it's not about believing. It's about seeing it for yourself. This place hasn't changed under your care. I think that's true. Beta and Ganma continued their way until they finally reached the main office of To-Do Mitsugoshi. When they arrived, they both sighed and entered. Upon doing so, they only looked at who was their leader. She was sitting on the floor with her head resting on her legs and without reflecting any emotion, whether sadness/anger/happiness. She was only like an empty shell that had lost what filled it. Beta, looking at Alpha's condition, was surprised. It was certainly the first time she'd seen Alpha so depressed. The previous time, with John Smith's betrayal, she hadn't been able to fully witness her sadness, so she'd come excited with the news and Alpha had recovered her spirits. But Alpha's spirits were at rock bottom. Even the office atmosphere felt uncomfortable and somewhat heavy. It was an awkward silence. Alpha-sama. I have a report to give you. Beta has discovered a way we might be able to bring Shadow-sama back. But we need the support of all 7 shadows to make this possible. Seeing that Alpha didn't respond directly, Ganma looked down, giving up. However, Beta, seeing her, looked at her with determination, as if trying to support her so she wouldn't give up. Ganma, seeing what his partner was trying to do, didn't give up and looked up again. In turn, Beta approached Ganma and whispered in his ear. Ganma, you have to show character and be more firm with the report. But he's Alpha-sama, I can't raise my voice, that's forbidden in my superior. I know. But Alpha-sama, haven't you seen his condition? If you continue speaking to him in that low tone, he'll think you're lying. Speak loudly as if you have confidence that our Lord will return. That way, Alpha-sama can react. I understand, I just hope you don't get mad at me. Ganma sighed and walked nervously to where Alpha was. Until she was in front of her, Ganma sighed and looked at Beta, who just looked at her seriously. Ganma had a few drops of sweat but finally decided to do it. Alpha-sama, we've discovered a way to bring Shadow-sama back to us. But we can't do it alone. We need your help to reunite the 7 shadows. We need our leader to guide us on this mission. Alpha-sama, we need her. I need her. Shadow-sama needs her. We need our leader back. We need that person who saved us almost 10 years ago. The only leader. Of all Mitsugoshi Alpha-sama. Alpha turned slightly to look at Ganma, who was breathing somewhat raggedly due to her tone of voice. When she looked at Ganma, she still had his gaze, and her hopeless heart repeated something she had already mentioned to him. He won't be back, you're the new Ganma leader. We discovered a way to bring him back, Shadow-sama. When Alpha heard Shadow's name, but especially Ganma's strong words of bring him back, it seemed to have had an effect on the Shadow Garden leader. Her hopeless eyes had regained their color. Bring him back, but he's... Beta has discovered it, we have reports. Shadow-sama is waiting for your return, he's waiting for you. You said so, Shadow-sama is not a weakling. Do you think Shadow-sama would be stopped even in death? No, he wouldn't be stopped even by a god. So, he's waiting for your return, he's waiting for you. Remember when you left once before? He came back again, and he's waiting to come back again. He'd never abandon us. Alpha, upon hearing Ganma's words, the brightness of her eyes and the hope in her heart returned to her. But now she only had one doubt that her heart wanted to satisfy. She was a person hungry for knowledge when it came to her master. Are you sure he'll be able to come back? Can you do it, Ganma? We'll all try. We'll make this possible, Alpha-sama. If we work together and set our minds to bringing it to fruition, we'll achieve it. Beta, seeing Ganma's attitude, was surprised. She had only told Ganma to speak strongly to Alpha because perhaps his tone wasn't very encouraging. But she hadn't expected Ganma to go from a lack of confidence to one with determination. Certainly, that attitude reminded her a lot of Alpha when she was making important decisions with determination. We hunt and stalk in the shadows. Alpha. Shadow? Ganma extended her hand to the person who was her Alpha leader. Seeing Ganma's hand, she could see the other shadows behind Ganma as if they were all extending their hands to her as a sign for her to come back. Finally, a voice was heard in her head. It was a cold but kind voice that she knew. Seeing Alpha's action, she decided to take Ganma's hand and stand up. She was still a little confused by everything that had happened. It was as if she had woken up from a great dream. He did it! Alpha-sama is back! Ganma wiped away some tears while Beta just watched his somewhat confused attitude. He didn't know that Alpha was feeling so bad or how much time had passed since he locked himself in his room trying to figure out how to save his lord. But the atmosphere had changed with Ganma's attitude and Alpha's awakening. With the threat of Shadow Garden, we're running out of options. We've tried to stop it with our army, but not even we can do anything against them. We have to use our best arsenal against them. We can't do it. If we use the prototype, it could cause severe damage to Midgar. We're still investigating whether there are more people outside who need to be rescued. We don't even know where their base is, and we can't damage the city stupidly. So what do you suggest? Iris-sama, what is your opinion? Iris was deep in thought. She was furious inside, especially because the Diabolos cult had promised her that she would be more powerful and that she could kill Shadow, but nothing they've told her has had any effect or result. In the worst case, she can't even do anything against Shadow Garden's subordinates, something that generated too much frustration since she had promised to give anything in exchange for power. Nothing served to avoid the prelude that was happening in the world. Iris-sama? For now, we're just going to focus on those who need a home and rescue them. Then we'll think of a way to finish them off. Honestly, I've already lost faith. I think it's best to take the refugees and go somewhere else. Don't be an idiot. Do you want to leave Midgar? Sister. What if we stay? Iris-sama, you should know better than anyone that Midgar's forces have been defeated. We don't have many troops left. We only have one weapon and we can't even use it. The Diabolos cult surely has something to do with all this as well. We can't fight in the war of organizations. If they discover this shelter and attack it, it will be our end. I'd rather leave than sacrifice innocents in a stupid war. I refuse to leave my city. I'll find a way to solve everything. I'll take down Shadow. Iris-sama, honestly, it's the best option. I think everyone here thinks about that. Besides, we can barely handle the wave of warriors. They outnumber us. Iris turned to look at the others at the table, and all of them had their faces downcast, as if they agreed with the aforementioned words. However, there was pain in them since this implied abandoning Midgar, and it would probably disappear in the Shadow Garden War or be conquered. We won't do that. Right, father? Right now. There aren't many options. Our priority is the refugees. We can't risk more soldiers in battle without a plan and without help. Even if we try to help Oriana and other nations, they'll refuse unless we offer something in return. And even if we mention the cult or Shadow Garden, it's even less so. Father, you can't abandon the city you built, that you maintained. We can't do it. We have to kill that bastard. He has to pay for the lives he stole. Iris. We need to prioritize the refugees and rethink our strategy if we have no other option. We need to finish saving the people of Midgar and figure out where we'll be temporarily. This refuge won't last long. But, do you really care more about your city than the lives of the people within it? Do you want to kill Shadow or just risk more citizens? Your attitude is not appropriate for a future princess, heir of Midgar, at this time. Conflict will not solve anything. A leader must also think of other solutions besides violence and risking innocent people. But I gain power, I should be able to. This discussion is over. Everyone come back. We need to work out our strategy. And everyone at the table began to leave, except for Alexia. Iris and the King of Midgar remained seated. The King of Midgar evidently still had some paperwork to do. Nei-sama. Alexia tried to comfort Iris, but she rejected her comforting hand. Iris simply left the room in annoyance and slammed the door. Your sister is a very strong person, isn't she? Father. Why did Nei-sama have that attitude a few moments ago? I really don't know what's wrong with her, she's getting stranger and stranger. I have no idea what's going on either. But your sister is probably resorting to the same method I tried with my father when I wanted to be king of Midgar. She's in a complicated phase. What? She'll try everything to become the new queen of Midgar, even if she has to do inappropriate things to save the city, and that worries me. But Nei-san wouldn't. A long time ago. My father was the previous king of Midgar before me. He had several future heirs, my brothers. I longed to have Midgar in my hands to show why it was the best nation. So I acted as a good leader. I trained hard to be the best of my brothers and to be the strongest. If I gained power, I knew that no one could stop me. That, added to my leadership, I knew that my father would choose me. However, he never chose me, and that frustrated me at first. I aligned myself with the Diabolos cult to try to gain more power. I thought that power was everything, and that's why he never chose me. But that was a big mistake. You allied with the Diabolos cult before? Yes. I thought they would be the answer I was looking for. In exchange for power, I offered absolute information about Midgar as a prince. It was easy, however. After discovering the cult's true intentions, they had declared war on us 50 years ago, and we were wiped out. I knew it was all my fault, after all. At that moment, before going to war, my father looked me in the eyes and said something that marked me for life. Listen to me. A good king also fights for the security of his kingdom, combating external attacks and internal sedition. Therefore, it is important that before being king, one must first be a warrior, learning, fighting, striving, and putting oneself in the shoes of others, but also putting the lives of the inhabitants in safety before one's own or that of others. After those words, my father named me the next heir and entrusted me with Midgar. He went off to war and sadly didn't return. With the pain in my heart, I could only do what he would have wanted me to do. Alexia was speechless. She hadn't expected the story her father had told her at all. The fact that her father had previously joined the Diabolos cult solely for power, and that her grandfather had sacrificed himself in a small war that wasn't that important but was important to her father. It was something completely unusual. Your sister is following the same path I did. Listen carefully. If at any time your sister joins the enemy or commits questionable actions, your duty as a princess will be to stop her, even if she is your own sister. You cannot allow Midgar to continue now, when it most needs a leader. Win one enemy. I can't do that. I can't stop her, she can't. I know she'll understand, and I'll help her get off that path if necessary, but I won't kill her. My grandfather helped you. I know my sister can still be saved. The king of Midgar, hearing his daughter's determined words for the first time, couldn't help but give a slight smile. Deep down, he was proud of his daughter, thinking that her mother would be very proud of her. However, first you will need to keep Midgar safer than anyone else's as a leader. And you need reinforcements. Reinforcement? The Diabolos cult. Or some organization. It doesn't matter which one. If you have the power to ally with an organization that can give you that power, then do it. But you said the cult turned its back on you a long time ago. However, it's very likely that the Diabolos cult would also want to get rid of the enemy organization to gain control. We can set a trap for them if you choose them to save Midgar. You have connections to both organizations. I don't need the Devil's cult to take down the new threat, Father. And I think it's a bad idea to do so, even if it means setting a trap. I'll investigate what the hell is going on first. Because I still don't believe everything that's happening. I need to know why Shadow Garden has done all this. What the cult is up to, everything. Only then will I be able to come to a conclusion, but I'll avoid it by allying myself with the enemy. I'm inspired. I want to finish God now. Shadow began to fly over the kingdom, of which there was now only the castle in front of him. Seeing what I was doing, Lilith quickly grabbed my shoulder. Wait. What's happening? You don't have the power yet. What you're about to do is suicide. A suicide? It's time. Let's make the deal we planned. I'll lend you my power. If you use it, you might have a chance. I don't need borrowed strength. Are you crazy? You can't defeat the king of the underworld by yourself. It's true that you wiped out his subordinates, and that's inhuman. But this is different. The underworld will lose its god. Then I will illuminate this place with my power and my shadows. Shadow continued walking without listening to the warnings Lilith was giving him. The closer he got to the territory, he noticed hundreds of guards once again guarding the place. Shadow prepared to finish them all off, but for some reason, no guard attacked him and instead opened the entrance. Was she letting him pass? Will they let us through? He's probably just bragging and is overconfident. The one who is bragging is you. Shadow continued on his way. With each step he took, the atmosphere was becoming slightly different. He felt the presence that had defeated him the first time he had entered this place. There was no doubt about who it was. The long-awaited god of the place. I still feel the burning of my soul like the first time. I must admit that I always like entering this place. It feels different from being outside. Shadow and Lilith crossed, and before opening the door, Lilith stopped Shadow again. Wait. I don't think this is a good idea. You're in the way. Get out of my way. I won't. I can't let you lose your life because of my greed to kill him. You don't have to do what you promised. This isn't about you. He stopped being that a long time ago. I just want to go in and kill him, that's all. You won't make it. Let's leave while we still have the chance. Shadow would move Lilith from her place and open the door. Lilith, seeing what Shadow was doing, would become worried and would simply resign herself to the regret of not being able to stop him. Wow. I thought you were just joking when you said you'd come back to this place. Shadow focused his sword on Hades with a rather cold look. Unlike the first time. This time Shadow was not going to hold back even a little. It's been a long time since I've seen a look with the intention of killing me fixed on me, in which I can feel a little fear. Hades stood up from his seat and held his trident tightly, slowly approaching in the middle. So, do you want to continue? And Chapter 33, Remastered. An endless battle. Cid's POV. Hades' POV. Narrator. I decided to start the first attack. The feeling of using my full capacity for the first time was something I had certainly forgotten. I never reached the human limit. The closest I remember was in my past life when I trained and trained without breaks. My muscles ached day after day. There were days when I couldn't even lift a muscle. I even sometimes thought about getting injections to reduce the pain. But I knew that if I needed to be an eminence in the shadows, I had to be stronger and not depend on something borrowed. That was how my training as an Eminence had begun. Even with the passage of time, I couldn't avoid feeling pain from my constant training, but this time, unlike before, I had gotten used to it, and even with my muscles at their limits, I moved to finish off the criminals. Since I traveled to this new world, at first it was a little difficult for me to control the magic and obtain the physique of my old life, but after non-stop effort, my body had strengthened so much that now with or without slime I simply felt nothing, be it exhaustion or muscle pain like in my previous life. Could it be because my body now had superhuman qualities? Or will it simply be because of my power? Whatever the reason, since I stopped feeling that pain and excitement of unleashing my power to the limit, I never stopped to think about reaching my limit. And even if I did, no matter how much I thought, I could not imagine what that sensation I felt in my previous life and when I was a child would feel like. Now that I experience it again, who would have imagined it? That there could be beings that could harm me like this. And who would have imagined that I have the power to adapt to everything, even hellish flames? I feel so strong right now. Even though you're going to face me for the second time. And you're standing here all alone despite already being defeated by me. Do you have the nerve to smile, kid? Smile? I hadn't realized my face had formed a smile. I didn't even feel it. Maybe it's the excitement of facing this guy again. Or has my desire to finish him off just grown so strong that my body recognizes it? I can't understand it, but it doesn't matter. You're a very interesting person. I'll show you what I'm made of. However, this time I won't have mercy like I did last time. I'll kill you. I wish you didn't have it for your own good. Oh? Is that a threat? You can interpret it however you want. Cid disappeared from the scene. A metallic sound sounded as two objects tore at each other. In mere milliseconds, the two combatants were clashing their weapons. The two just looked at each other with a smile as if this battle was more than just a simple battle. It was the perfect definition of evil versus darkness, a symbolic meaning of chaos versus shadow. A battle that put the pride of one of the two sides that each represented. I twisted the trident's handle. I barely managed to hit the brat, dodging the impact. But he'd already predicted my attack and merely extended the handle of his sword, interfering with the impact. That black thing he materialized is a bit annoying. But I noticed something strange. Something else. Could it be the amount of mana used? Lilith would hear a loud noise. Upon hearing the loud noise, she would quickly enter the room to observe where the sound was coming from. When she approached, she could notice two figures, Hades and Shadow, who were exchanging weapons in a clash. Seeing what was happening, she would be shocked at everything. A human weapon was being exchanged with a god's weapon on equal terms. That would naturally be impossible if you don't have a divine weapon or a weapon from this realm from any other demon. Even a weapon from this realm would be destroyed if exchanged with the god of this realm. But now they were both even. It was certainly somewhat incredulous. When she tried to get closer, the pressure of the place prevented her from taking another step. Several presences would surround the two in the middle of the duel. They were clones materialized by slime with the same appearance as Shadow. They all approached Hades with the intention of trying to damage him with each of their swords. Hades changed his expression, and using a great deal of his physical strength he sent Shadow away. With the 6 clones surrounding Hades, they all pounced on him in an indefinite blink of an eye. However, at massive speed, Hades cut down each of the clones. Some attacked him by surprise, but he only spit fire from his mouth to free himself. Until finally, all the clones had fallen. So you copy. It's not a really impressive technique. Is this what you learned? Shadow continued his attack. From his cape came multiple sharp attacks made by the slime of his own suit in all possible directions. Hades would only cover himself with his trident, which did not avoid all the attacks. Several managed to tear some parts of his suit, and to his surprise those sharp attacks managed to make light cuts. Hades confidently thought that although Shadow had increased his power, he still could not hurt him because he did not have an artifact or weapon, but that was his first mistake made. Impossible. Is he succeeding? Did he manage to hurt the god of the underworld? What boring techniques! Hades would spit fire with force again, causing the slime to melt. Shadow would fly away from the attack quickly. Hades did not stop, and Shadow was just going to get back up to continue his attack. Hades was already close to him. Shadow held his sword tightly and prepared for the exchange. Hades' sword began to shine brightly, and at the moment of the exchange the place trembled at the clash of weapons of both individuals, and the castle slowly began to crack. Lilith covered her eyes due to the strong, violent smoke released by the crash and the imminent light. Credulous, Lilith barely opened her eyes a little and managed to see two figures in the sky shooting out of the castle. The attack caused Shadow to go through the wall due to the force exerted by Hades. But Hades did not stop and continued his attack, changing direction to hit Shadow from behind. Shadow's action only created a barrier around him to cushion the blow, although the impact was so strong that when he fell it caused a loud bang and a cloud of dust that not only made it impossible to see, but the ground even rumbled from the force. "I hope you don't die from this, Cid Kagenou." Hades' hand began to glow, and a large ball of magical energy materialized of immeasurable size. The mana became of an unparalleled size, so much so that the castle was dwarfed by the attack. The guards, seeing what their lord planned to do, quickly moved away in fear. Lilith was in shock seeing that attack without being able to move her legs until she felt a sting in her body. From the same place where Shadow had fallen, he had pushed Lilith to get her away from the place. Hades launched his attack. The attack began to fall violently as soon as it arrived. The castle was destroyed, and the kingdom began to shake from the violence of the attack. The ground that remained was also so perforated that it almost seemed as if it had reached its limit, and that another attack would make a hole as if breaking the earth's layer. As Lilith was being pulled away, she would feel a violent tremor, and see the enormous sphere fall and cause the entire place to shake as much as if it were going to explode. Several nearby creatures were incinerated as soon as the attack came close enough to touch them. Lilith covered her eyes again as the large cloud of hot dust approached, unable to help but worry for her companion. "As Shadow!" The cloud continued. Hades just stared at the crater he had caused. Seeing that nothing happened after a few minutes, Hades thought for a few moments that perhaps he had gotten his hopes up with this boy for having managed to hurt him a little and having launched an attack of that magnitude that he hadn't done for thousands of years against an enemy worthy of it was exaggerated. However, something was happening. The cloud was fading faster than usual and a purple light was reflecting. The shadow of a person with a sword was seen while a purple aura surrounded him. When the smoke finally allowed itself to be seen, Shadow was seen with several injuries on his body while a little blood fell from his head. His sword also had a purple color in general. It shone more than ever. The mana it gave off was so violent that the entire underworld trembled so much for a few moments, added to the shock of the explosion, that it gave the sensation of almost breaking. "Wow. I think I underestimated this brat more than I should have. An attack like that. It won't be enough to kill the darkness in this world." Shadow removed the aura surrounding his body and his wounds slowly began to heal as he raised both hands and flew again. While Shadow began to laugh. "You're going to lose, god of the underworld. And the reason will be because you tried to confront something you couldn't defeat." "Me lose? The battle is just beginning." Hades was barely going to mention anything else. He felt a pain in his stomach. Hades noticed a shallow cut on his stomach. He would be surprised that he hadn't noticed the cut that came over him. Since when did he get that cut? "How is it that? That's when you launched that attack." "When I launch my attack? It won't be." Small flashback. As the energy ball almost reached where Shadow was, he got up unharmed thanks to his barrier. After pushing Lilith away with his hand by generating air pressure, he looked at that attack and with a deep sigh and closing his eyes, he took his sword and greatly increased his power by surrounding his entire body with his purple mana, also influencing mana in his sword. Such an amount of mana was so excessive and such power was so devastating that anyone who tried to influence that power in their body would immediately die crushed by the pressure of so much power. But Shadow had already managed to adapt his body to that power because that was his greatest quality. Expanding his body beyond its limit and more now that he was a soul, human standards did not apply in this place. His spirit had certainly been strengthened to another level. allowing Shadow to achieve a power that to obtain in his real body would simply be a dream for him. He realized this since he faced every beast in the place that his body did not suffer wear and tear, and this was abnormal, and the answer was obvious. Since he's a soul, human rules don't apply to him now. And he didn't need to control and train so that power wouldn't be so strong that it would harm him like it had been when he was a child. Instead, now that he was a soul, he could exploit it without worrying about how much power would harm him. You rushed here so fast, taking advantage of my lowered guard and hoping you'd counter that energy, or simply run away. It certainly seemed strange to me that you let yourself get hit by that attack. I had that feeling. I just moved so fast and did that damage to you that you didn't even notice it was gone, and I used the smoke to make it so you wouldn't notice. Ha ha ha, what a way to fight. Like a deranged madman, like someone who uses the field to his advantage if necessary. I like you? I thought I wouldn't need to use that much power to take down a mere human, but you've proven me wrong. That's why now. I will fight with everything I have in honor of you. I will remember you as the only human who got me to this point. Hades took off his jacket as an aura of steam emerged from his body. His muscles were visible, his veins bulged, but they didn't increase in muscle mass. After all, it was simply an increase in power until reaching the limit. But the way to know if Hades was serious or not was simply by looking at how his body pushed itself to reach the limit. How when a human tensed their muscles to lift something they know will be heavy, this action was certainly the same. On the other hand, Shadow wasn't far behind and he also decided to go seriously. Hades barely finished when he lunged at Shadow so fast that the air itself produced a shock wave as if it were a trampoline kicking the air. Hades instantly arrived against Shadow, and as soon as his trident collided with Shadow's weapon it began to slowly crack. Even though I've increased my power to this point to face the final boss, even with my full power, it's still capable of damaging my weapons. I'll have to strengthen my slime and not let it break my sword. Shadow influenced magical energy reinforcing his slime, which began to grow, beginning to eliminate the crack in the sword. As soon as he did, Shadow kicked to remove Hades' concentration, but Hades still did not move, an action that surprised Shadow, who created a blade in his shoe and launched another attack. Hades simply forced his muscles, causing the blade to break in his leg. However, blood still came out of his leg, but it was not much. It was as if it were a superficial cut, and luckily it did not go through his flesh, and it was only his skin. Shadow began again to be overwhelmed in the clash due to the strength of Hades, who would spit fire again. Shadow, seeing what Hades was trying, dodged the fire, causing his small lock of hair to be set on fire. He had barely dodged it, but this distraction was perfect for Hades, who hit Shadow with the handle of his sword. Shadow tried to stop the attack with his sword, but even so the force exerted was so brutal, added to his lack of concentration, and that he lowered his guard, that he fell violently down in the air. Hades didn't stop his attack and didn't let Shadow get back up. He launched several magical attacks. Shadow flew quickly, dodging Hades' attacks. The attacks continued following Shadow, and he released a large amount of mana in the air, making the attacks disappear. Several bodies would come out in the sky trying to attack Shadow. But this one slash caused thousands of cuts, making them all turn to dust. But this was only a distraction on the part of Hades, who threw himself at Shadow again. Shadow already knew it, so with a smile he waited for Hades to approach him. The moment he was almost there, Shadow jumped and hit Hades' back with his sword, piercing it. Hades would only spit blood due to what happened. But Shadow also didn't give time, and in revenge for attacking him without letting him rest, he mentioned the following words. I am Atomic Blade. Atomic blades? Several blades surrounded Shadow like a circle, and all of them began to pierce Hades from each direction, while Shadow only enjoyed the damage he was doing to Hades. How about this god of the underworld? Shadow would notice that Hades' wounds were also slowly beginning to heal. But unlike using mana to heal the wounds, these were being healed naturally. Shadow would notice because he didn't feel any magical energy. That means that this guy was apparently immortal. Shadow moved away from Hades as soon as he noticed that he was getting back up. Hades only smiled again as he got up. He grabbed his hair while blood slowly fell from his head and his body was full of wounds. Ha ha ha, it's been a while since I've had so much fun in a battle. So he's immortal. Makes sense if he's a god from the Hell realm. You are a very interesting human, very interesting. Without a doubt, you would be worthy of holding the title of demigod of the underworld. I would love for you to take that place instead of those two useless gods who died from such a simple attack. But it's a shame, dying as a warrior won't be bad either. Dying like a god won't be either. Come on. Keep entertaining me more. Since that moment, Hades had felt a sensation he had never felt before in his life since hundreds of years ago, when he fought against the Gigatomachy. Certainly this human had raised his battle spirit again. He felt that he could launch himself with all his power without caring if the kingdom was destroyed or not. He just wanted to satiate his desire to fight to the death. This was the sensation that Hades had missed. After sitting for thousands of years, he had finally felt something to have fun with again, without it being something basic like people or useless documents and guarding. On the other hand, Shadow only reciprocated this action, fulfilling the request of the aforementioned god. While he squeezed his sword so much that a little blood fell from it due to the force exerted, he only raised his sword, something he had never done before. For Shadow, this was the typical cliché of giving respect to the opponent but in his own way, pointing his wounded body with intentions to kill and fight at 100%. Shadow would never be so cowardly as to attack someone wounded or even give them the audacity to use all his power in an attack, but Hades worthily deserved it. That title of god was not small for him at all, he thought in his mind. After all, those who called themselves gods or had the so-called power of one simply disappointed him. Like Ragnarok, the beast of chaos had nothing. But Hades, the king of the underworld, made his name fully respected. The games are over. Thank you for teaching me that there are more opponents than I can overcome and that no matter what the plane, I will be the Eminence in the shadows. I will be invincible. I will give you my thanks by fighting seriously, so thank you. Shadow began to rise to the sky as a large amount of mana began to leave his body. So much mana was emanated by Shadow that the underworld went from a red hue to a purple hue due to the energy caused. Also, a barrier would form between Shadow and Hades, covering them both to prevent Shadow from destroying the underworld and condensing that attack only on him and Hades. Clearly he himself could not be hurt, and if he condensed his entire attack it would be more powerful. Hades observed the feat that Shadow did and with a nervous smile, but without letting go of his trident, he looked at the aforementioned Shadow. Huh? What the hell is going on? Lilith noticed that everything around the sky was purple. When she was able to look at the sky, she saw two recognizable figures. Were they Shadow and the god of the underworld? Lilith couldn't believe what she saw, and even more seeing the state of both, it was impossible. Shadow had achieved something truly impossible, but now it was not about believing it or not. If not what they planned to do, Lilith knew that she could not get into the crash was simply impossible. The only thing she could do was give her support to Shadow. I still can't believe what I'm seeing. Whether I'm dreaming or not, I only know one thing. Don't hold back and finish that bastard off, even if it means destroying the entire Shadow underworld. Lilith smiled at the sky as she watched everything. Hades' guards who had previously fled also watched the two and gave their support to their master. Such an amount of magic in a human. It's astonishing. No one has ever achieved this before. You're strange. I, Hades, declare you the strongest opponent I have ever fought and give you the title of the God of Shadows. So now, God of Shadows, I will respond to your attack as an equal of God to God and the only human who has reached divinity with an attack with all my being. Hades also created a huge fire-colored energy field that was on par with the field Shadow had generated. The purple color was now light purple with the combination of both colors from both sides. I am atomic! Their explosions created a chain reaction. They both gave their full energy to the collision, trying to destroy each other's energy. A light blinded the entire underworld, and the sky began to shatter. This reaction would affect the other realms, even though the distance was far. Epsilon needs your support. It makes no sense without it. We have a plan this time. To bring him back. Are you serious? You're not lying, Alpha-sama? Why would I lie about something like that? Epsilon-san. We need your help. He can come back. Can he return? And? The light in Epsilon's eyes returned to her senses, as if she had also recovered something that made her incomplete. The news that her master could return had brought her back to herself even more because it came from Alpha, the person she trusted the most, but she still had doubts deep down in her heart. But can you guarantee that? We will all make it possible. And? Epsilon stood up from her table with tears in her eyes. Ganma would only hug her to comfort her while Alpha and Beta would smile. They hadn't done anything together, the 7 of them, and with the same purpose for almost 4 years since Shadow had saved them. She knew they all agreed on something. To rescue the one who had saved them years ago. Ganma. Where are Delta and Zeta? WL. Delta was found around 20 in bad condition. But she's back to normal. But she doesn't bother talking to anyone, she's just lying on the ground, constantly mentioning Shadow-sama. Zeta said she'd do things on her own, and she doesn't usually come around here much. I understand. I'll go with Delta and give him the news. You guys go with Ada. WE? Yes. Delta tends to be aggressive toward people other than Shadow or me in that state. You understood. You understood. Alpha would leave the room. Some time later. Delta-sama must eat something otherwise you. As soon as Number approached Delta with the food, he growled in annoyance and tried to scratch her. Number moved away nervously while sighing in exhaustion. It's useless, she doesn't eat anything. How's the situation going? Alpha-sama. You weren't. Well, Delta-sama hasn't touched her food for days since my partner didn't return from the mission. Mission? We investigated the area and found Delta-sama in poor condition, but she wasn't injured. She was just tired, and she had fainted from lack of food. My companion brought her with me. I understand. I'm sorry to hear that. Haven't they noticed your whereabouts? It's not likely that she's... Alpha clenched her fists in annoyance. While she was gone, she received the report of the Numerians who had lost their lives. In order to obtain some information, all this information she had cost the lives of several of her soldiers. While she was sitting there doing nothing, she left everything in charge to Ganma and simply gave up. It was something that weighed on her. But she wasn't going to allow any more deaths now, and especially with Beta's hypothesis, they were definitely going to come to a conclusion as soon as possible. I will enter. Are you safe, Alpha-sama? And Alpha entered the room where Delta was. As she looked at her, she could see that Delta's body was pale and a little dark-circled from not sleeping, eating, or drinking water for hours. Seeing her in that state, Alpha could imagine the state she or the others were in, and it caused her pain. Seeing Delta in that state, the liveliest person of the 7 shadows, was very difficult for her, but with strength, she wasn't going to allow herself to cry this time. Delta. Sigh. I have news. We've discovered a way to bring Shadow back. As soon as Alpha mentioned her report, Delta jumped and ran to Alpha, jumping on top of her. Naturally, Alpha would give her a magic shock and push Delta away from her, but she couldn't do that because of her pale body, so she had to put up with it. What? Basu? Can Basu come back? How quickly he recovered. I didn't even have to worry. And... See! Get off me now! Alpha frowned and Delta barely looked at Alpha, afraid she would move away from Alpha. Sorry! Alpha stood up and dusted himself off a little while Numero watched them. She smiled at seeing Delta finally in that state. I heard you haven't been eating. SSI. Are you hungry? Yes. Delta is hungry, Disa. You never change, huh? Alpha would turn to the Number who was watching them and she would understand and go out to bring food for Delta. Listen, Delta. I need you to come with me once you're done eating. There's probably going to be a meeting after all this time. Delta can eat and be at the meeting. No. You're going to make a mess. But Delta can. No. It's okay, Disa. Now I'm retiring. Alpha-sama. As Beta Epsilon and Ganma headed toward Ada's room, they heard some screams. Hearing the screams, the three of them, confused, rushed over, thinking an enemy had entered. Upon entering, they were shocked to see Beta in particular. The scene where Ada had a device on Akane's head and a spotlight that looked at her memories. These instruments are very useful. You hide a lot, so maybe it's not necessary to remove your brain. Do you want to hurry? Zeta crossed her arms annoyed while ETA continued. The door was opened by the three shadows. What are they doing? Alpha-sama didn't order this, ETA-san. They've already entered. Zeta stood in the middle while looking at the three shadows. I won't let them get in the way. What are you doing, Zeta? Don't you see what Ada did? You just broke one of Alpha-sama's rules. Ganma mentioned this with annoyance while Beta was upset by how they treated Akane. So what? Ada found a way to bring the master back through this girl. What? That's why I can't let them get in the way even if I have to fight. I'll do everything even if I have to leave Shadow Garden to bring the master back. What are you? That's ridiculous. Alpha-sama and I have found a way to bring him here. What you're doing will upset Alpha-sama. The way? According to my analysis of this girl, there's a 100% chance that Shadow-sama will return what are yours. You're deceiving Zeta. Ever since Shadow-sama was alive, you've wanted to extract her brain. Your purpose has absolutely nothing to do with it. They're going to kill me anyway, at least be grateful that I'm doing something for you. Creating weapons with a person that Alpha-sama ordered to protect? You're not doing anything for us. You're doing this for yourself and you never cared about Shadow-sama. You just want his body. Everyone calm down, there has to be another way besides screaming. Don't you see what Ganma is doing? This isn't the first time she's tried to kill the person I brought and Alpha-sama herself denied attacking. Ada is absolutely out of control. But fighting won't get us anywhere, it won't bring Shadow-sama back. Alpha-sama wouldn't like a stupid fight like this either. But I've been putting up with it for weeks, watching everyone devastated and helpless. Now that we're all finally reunited, the first thing they do is fight? They could fight and never get anywhere. Hurt each other and do stupid things. Or they could all agree to bring back the one who gave us life. And that's it. We won't accuse you and Alpha-sama of this. The last thing we want is a fight where Alpha-sama also gets upset. But listen to what we have to say before you do anything stupid. Do what you want. Ada released Akane but would put her to sleep first so that she wouldn't cause a ruckus. So what's your idea? Zeta asked curiously to the three shadows while ETA yawned. The shadows would tell their strategy to Ada and Zeta. Ada analyzed this and agreed that the probability might be good, but there was no guarantee they could cross into the other realm. But perhaps the master could. They just needed to create a portal to another realm. The problem was how they did it, and which realms specifically. That's why I need that girl. Her technology is pretty good. I need the resources to create them to proceed. Although the last time I saw a portal, Shadow-sama was absorbed by one Y. The reason may have been that the master's energy was so overwhelming that it caused his energy to reach beyond space-time, creating the portal. But that sounds very difficult, doesn't it? Matching the energy Shadow-sama had released at that time is theoretically impossible. It doesn't have to be the same. We just need to have enough energy to power one device that can channel energy and spread it. Cult may hold the answer. Eh? What do you say, Zeta-san? I met a strange guy. He knew a lot of things, and I haven't been able to locate him, but that clears up any doubts I have about the possibility that the cult's seats are involved. The seats? But it will be impossible to locate them. Now the cult has retreated. Maybe we can if we catch an enemy of those attacking Migar. But they are too powerful. If I create artifacts that give us the advantage, I shouldn't. And for that, I need her. Do you understand? But not by taking out his brain. Then let's consult Alpha-sama about this. Maybe we can get information out of him in a way that isn't as exaggerated as removing his brain. Besides, she's number 667. You're very kind, but whatever. At that, a tremor would be felt throughout the place. several things in the office would fall to the floor while the shadows wobbled from the pressure. What the hell? What was that? Untembler? Alpha was doing some paperwork while giving some instructions to Numeros until the tremor would be felt throughout Mitsugoshi. Kia! What the hell is going on? This energy, there is no doubt no one else could. This energy is, I recognize it as his. Alpha would feel the energy of who was once her master. Shadow's presence was weak, so only she had noticed due to his power and her connection to it because she was the one who received the most from Shadow. Upon realizing this, Alpha would give a big smile while lowering her gaze. So, wherever you are, you're having fun, aren't you? Waiting for the moment to come back. You never change. While Shadow was sipping on some boring wine on his throne, he felt the tremor. The alternate Shadow himself had recognized this tremor. It was simple but powerful. It was someone. And evidently the energy was scarce, but an energy similar to his could be felt. Was it perhaps his other version? So, I went to heaven or somewhere and now I'm wreaking havoc? You must be having a good time, old me. The clash continued until the light finally covered everything. After several minutes of light, everything that had happened was finally revealed. Ha! So it wasn't enough, huh? Hades was seriously injured. As soon as the wind blew on both sides, his arms had disintegrated. He was totally at the mercy of disappearing completely at any moment. Despite his immortality, it was difficult for him to stay alive because Shadow's attack for some reason denied rapid regeneration, and at any moment, he could fall. If he closed his eyes, it was the end if his consciousness left. Hades tried to stay awake so that his healing could continue, but it was a slow pace. The energy of the underworld luckily prevented his death. Shadow also had major injuries. Both of his arms were burned, and his slime and clothes were completely gone. His eye was injured beyond repair. Both legs could barely stand because the slime itself, with its consciousness, was keeping its wearer from falling to the ground. He barely had enough mana to stand. It was the first time Shadow had performed an atomic attack, using up almost all of his reserve energy, even against Ragnarok, although he used his atomic attack. He had never used up even half of his magic reserve. Although, thanks to Shadow's mana control, he could use the mana in the environment to at least create slime that could cushion him. I truly believe this is the first time in my life I felt like I was going to die for the second time. The feeling of releasing my energy until it was almost exhausted was very pleasant, but I can't move even though I use the mana in the environment. It's as if my body is miraculously conscious. It's ironic after training so much in this place I can't do something so simple. I truly enjoyed this. What's wrong? Why don't you finish me off? I see. So you want me to tell you the way out of this kingdom? The way out? I'd forgotten why I was so focused on the battle that I forgot my main purpose. No lahe. No lahe? Haha, I think. I won't be able to wait to tell you everything. Hades was the first to fall from the sky as he closed his eyes. So I lost to a human, huh? I didn't think this would happen, but at least I'm glad I died in a fun way. Shadow just watched the scene with a smile, and with his slime he would move his limbs, making a victory pose of an eminence in the shadows with a smile totally worthy of an eminence. As soon as he did so, Shadow felt a pang in his chest and began to fall to the ground as well. The slime could not continue moving him for long. So I could do it, right? I died and came here to defeat their god. It certainly sounds good for both lives, human and beyond. I think this is the first time I've seen a non-NPC battle and just let out who I truly am. I waited until I fell to the ground until I felt a warm sensation. When I opened my eyes, I saw a figure with long white hair and red eyes. Who was it? You're very reckless, you know that? Ares. Lilith? Do you not even remember me? You're really pathetic. And what the hell are you going to have to apologize for throwing me in the air, you piece of shit? Shadow closed his eyes while Lilith complained. When she saw that Shadow had fallen asleep, she only sighed in annoyance. But she also smiled. Without her knowing the reason, she just smiled. You did well, Shadow-kun. Chapter 34, Remastered. I heard a peculiar fiery sound. Was it probably a campfire? My consciousness started to return to me when I heard that small sound. I opened my eyelids with some regret, my vision still a little blurry in my other eye. It's not like I've lost it. After all, my healing magic is advanced, but I don't need to use it. I'm just exhausted. Although I've never been so exhausted before in my life, I probably won't be able to get up for a while. When I finished opening my eyes, I could see a figure with long albino hair and above all 2 horns on the left and right side. Wow! Are you awake yet? It's amazing that after everything that happened, it didn't take you long to fully recover. So I was asleep. How long was that? I tried to move my limbs even though I was still in a lot of pain as soon as I tried to move. I really exhausted almost all of my mana reserves just to heal myself, so this is what a protagonist feels like after waking up from a long battle, huh? Don't move too much yet. I healed your wounds and brought you here, but my healing magic still isn't very effective. You took damage from the king of the underworld himself. The only thing I could do was at least keep you from dying. I see. Lilith sighed with a bit of resignation. I think she was expecting me to thank her? So this is its under a character, huh? However, I can't afford to break my character when I'm in my shadow form. So I'll just continue the conversation as a mysterious guy in the shadows. Where are we? I brought you to the restorative lava lake. Lake of lava? You might think at first glance that it's just a normal lake. But it isn't. After all, this side is where Hades-sama, according to rumors, rested after his tough battles millennia ago, but it's an exclusive lake that only he can use, but that doesn't matter now. You put my body in a lake of lava? Huh! I wasn't going to throw you into a real lake. Do you think I'm that cruel? Where is he? You just woke up and the first thing you're going to ask me is that? If you're talking about Hades-sama, he's in the crater they left with their games. They really are both troublemakers. Is he still alive? He's about to die. I'll make sure he is. After those words, Lilith stood up and walked towards Hades. But I stopped her before she could continue on her way by taking her arm. Chapter 35, Remastered. Our strategy. Kia! Charity! You insignificant weaklings! You call yourselves the most powerful nation? We are superior! That person just continued his attacks until he suddenly felt a stab near his cheek. It was a sword that almost pierced him, but he managed to dodge it by jumping. A surprise attack? I dodged the attack, but as soon as I moved I felt a sharp pain in my back and immediately fell to the ground. When I turned around I could see a brat with a long blue knight and pigtails and another with albino hair. They drove stakes into my back, but how come I couldn't feel them with my detection magic? Damn. Damn! Oh. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Epsilon and Beta with a slightly sadistic smile drove more stakes into the subject's back, causing him to spurt a large amount of blood onto the ground. A circle formed around his body, immobilizing his progress. This device that hides our presence and mana was very effective on ETA's part. The ceiling stakes were also. Damn it! What do they want? Oh, nothing. We'll just torture you until you tell us everything you know about your master and ours. You idiots really think I'll betray my master dash? Epsilon lit the stakes on fire, slowly and painfully burning the person on his back, causing him to fall silent in pain. I wonder how long you'll last. It'll be so much fun to let out everything you have inside. I've always wanted a toy I could have fun with. We will have no mercy on you, you filthy scum. Sound of skin tearing. Jaya! Gosh, it's making a lot of noise, isn't it, Beta-san? I agree. It's better to keep it quiet. Epsilon and Beta knocked out the subject with the handle of their swords to the head. They then carried the spy's sleeping body with them, keeping the seal immobilizing his body intact. That was easier than I thought. The technology of the other world is truly impressive. See? Flashback. I don't really know much about the technology of my world. In that case, I will have to dissect. just this one. Alpha looked at Ada with a frown, and she just listened. But I'll try to help with whatever I can, but can I really trust you? Yes. We seek the same thing as you, salvation from him. With it they refer to. That's right. We need all the support we can get to keep him safe and well. We just want his best interest after all this, and all of this was created by him. Minoru-kun did that? From your words we can see that you had a previous connection with him, and like us you seek his salvation. Beta has told me interesting things about you. That's right. Why Kagenou-kun? Kagenou-kun followed by my side. Alpha gave a slight sighing smile and approached Akane as he stood in front of her. So let's do it. Let's save the one who gave us life. 667. See. The technology in my world was a little strange, but I think I can draw plans, even though I'm not very good at drawing and explaining the function of each object. Your collaboration would be wonderful for us, Nishino-san. But I still have a small question. Why do you need to know information about the objects in my world? How will that help Kagenou-kun? The objects in your world are interesting to us. We've never found such interesting materials before, except for his recommendations. So Kagenou-kun told you information? Information? It's nothing. But the truth is, I don't know how all the objects in my world are created. I only know a few of them, but their functions. If you give us as much information as possible, it won't be a problem. We have a plan. I understand. Some evidence was shown. Akane explained some objects from her world as well as weapons. Mostly the shadows asked for information about weapons and medicine, something that seemed very curious to Akane since she hadn't thought about it before. The only thing she mentioned was that poisons and antidotes existed, but she didn't go into more detail because she still didn't fully trust the shadows. However, she knew that if she didn't give enough information, they would dissect her. The information came in handy for the shadows. Thanks to the information, more of their own artifacts could be created, with creative functions and designs. Beta and Epsilon had entered just as the window curtain blew in the wind blowing off the moon. They had a hooded figure with a motionless seal staked in. Alpha-sama. We have returned from our mission. Good job at 2. Alpha approached the scene while walking in her heels. Her stomping noises were unexpected. Until she got close enough to the subject, she just looked at him. So you work for him, right? Tis they caught me and I. Kick. We didn't give you permission to talk trash. You will tell us everything you know about your master, the organization to which you belong, all of you. Do you really think that girls like you are going to make a nightmare like me one of the highest officials? Can I tell you something? All we really do know. Ada came out of her hiding place while holding a needle with a slightly sadistic look. The hooded man just stood there watching the girl's action, a little sweaty but didn't let himself fall. A time passed. No more. I'm just starting my experiment. You're interesting, you'll be useful to me. Get me away from her. Oh, weren't you supposed to be your master's nightmare and a high-ranking seat? Poor thing, are you wrecked? Tsk maldita si. He tried to bite his tongue as a desperate way to end his torment. All of them in the room could only be described with one word. Crazy. Especially the one with the needle. She had a peculiar look, a disinterested look, something he hadn't noticed except in his own master. However, that girl's gaze was somewhat sadistic, as if she seemed to enjoy what the others were doing to her body more. How was he seen? Such action was prevented by ETA, who cut off his fingers as he approached him. Oh no, I don't need a toy yet, I need it. Damn. It's not possible that I, high-ranking officer of my lord. I'm suffering this because of some brats. You made a huge mistake messing with Shadow Garden, and now you'll pay for it. We're going to finish you off. Alpha-sama, can I dissect your brain? We've been here for a week and there are no results. You haven't said a word, you've got guts. Ha ha ha, my master will come soon, he will finish them all off. Pathetic. I think you can do it just this once. Ada smiled for the first time as she approached the hooded man. He only looked with his last lost look at Ada's expression. He only smiled until suddenly his eyes lost their light. The cause was because Eta had hit him so hard with a mallet materialized by slime on the head that the blow had completely destroyed his skull. It's time to dissect specimen 312. He decided to die to reveal information to us. I didn't think it would be so difficult to get the information out of him. Why did you decide to let Ada-san dissect you? Alpha-sama could have tried more things. It was just a matter of time. We don't have much time left. We need to do something, and we have to trust ETA. This time, I'll just go along with their method because they're an enemy. I understand. Beta, let me know what ETA manages to discover, as well as the new artifacts we'll be using on the battlefield. Let's try to find allies. Allies? But what does Alpha-sama mean by allies? I find it hard to admit, but our troops are down, and the enemy is outgunned. If we want more opportunities, we also need our own alliance. We can't rely on them all the time. So that means that Midgar and Oriana have almost fallen. They're not far behind. We can take advantage of the situation to gain allies. If we gain allies, we'll have a numerical advantage. I understand that it will take some time, but I will do everything possible to convince the closest allies of both nations. Yes. Remember, Beta, if you encounter an enemy or several, don't fight unless necessary and don't let your guard down. Just because we have the advantage in weapons doesn't mean we can go without a strategy. We still need to refine our plans and strategy. Alexia-sama, we need support. Immediately. The scene of the Knights of Midgar fighting against some enemy forces was shown. These were only slowly falling, being pierced by a dark-colored slime. Alexia looked at the scene with annoyance and clenching her fists tried to help. However, her sister had arrived and quickly finished off most of the enemy forces with her sword artifact in hand, and her great heat incinerated the entire place. These are Shadow's forces? I expected so much more. Nei-san! Alexia. Take care of the wounded and I'll take care of them. No, Nei-san, don't do that stupid thing. We have to go now that we've distracted them. Iris didn't listen to Alexia, she just gripped her sword and continued finishing off several enemies. Alexia, worried, tried to approach her sister and help her, but the knights prevented it because they needed reinforcements. Alexia angrily helped, still worried about her sister. The wounded and inhabitants of Midgar were taken with them in the direction of the Midgar Academy while the forces prevented them from approaching. Brother! Brother, where are you? A little girl began to cry as she desperately searched for her little brother. Swordswoman Alexia approached the little girl, crouching down to her level and stroking her hair. Calm down, what's going on? My brother is not here. Relax, okay? I'll find your brother. Really? Yes. Just stay here and wait, okay? Don't leave the Order of Knights. SSI. Alexia's POV. I went into the academy looking for the brother of the little girl I had found. No matter how much I searched the academy and asked different people, no one gave me any really useful information I could use. Are you looking for a little boy? And do you know its characteristics? Not entirely, the little one didn't tell me. I don't know if this information helps you, Alexia-sama, but it said that a child was outside among the rubble on the battlefield, but we couldn't help him because our forces were starting to dwindle. Tisk. Alexia started walking back. Alexia-sama? Where is Alexia-sama going? Dem always giving me trouble. I walked to the door. Once I got there, I tried to get out, but my strength refused to let me go. I think I'll have to find another way to escape. I activated the alarm. The soldiers had gotten distracted thinking that an enemy had entered and left the exit clear. I took advantage of the opportunity to escape. Now where will the child be? It's risky to go to the countryside alone, I have to be cautious. I headed towards the battle zone. The alarms had stopped, the frustration was already gone, it didn't last long, I had to take advantage and run with all my strength before the knights found me. At least I'll be able to help my sister in battle. No matter how much I ran and checked everywhere, I couldn't find anything, but I heard some faint moans in the background that I could barely hear. Aya! Is anyone here? IUN. The sound comes from. The sound has to come from this place, it must be here. Alexia continued running until she heard low breathing from among the rocks. She noticed the crushed arm, and with her sword she wrapped it in mana to be able to break the rock, being very careful not to hurt it. Her mana control had certainly improved this time. Aya! Calm down, I'm here, I'll take you to the shelter. And my arm hurts. Sniff. Don't think about it now, if you do, it will hurt more, please just hold on a little longer. I carried the little one very carefully. His arm looked very unpleasant, as if it weren't crushed or half burned. Was this child attacked? No, if that were true, he would have died. Perhaps the debris had fallen. But why was he burned? That didn't matter. What mattered now was that he needed support. Clash of swords? It's very strong. What's going on? What's going on? Is this all there is to the new Shadow Garden? We have to retreat. The nightmares will take over anyway. Here. Both hooded men could see a 17-year-old girl with silver hair carrying a small dark-haired boy. Upon seeing this action, they had come up with a rather vague strategy. Oh right, we can't win. Are you going to retreat? Of course, Shadow Garden is a coward. But first we want to give you our regards. Astilfer. A burst of mana shot out from her sword, which was directed at Alexia. Iris, confused, not knowing where the attack was aimed, stupidly turned, but seeing her younger sister with a child, her gaze changed from confidence to shock. The only thing she could do at that moment was, Alexia! I turned around to see what had happened and saw a white flash. Alexia! Yes and yes! The boss will reward us for this. Alexia. Iris clenched her fists to the point that they were bleeding. Her sword only clenched it with all her strength. It's time to. Iris launched herself with all her power towards one of the hooded men and cut him with her flaming sword, splitting him in half. Her companion looked at the scene in disbelief but could barely do anything. Iris also cut him, but not to the critical point of causing instant death, but enough to make him fall to the ground on the verge of death. Ayak, what he dash! Aya! Iris threw herself at the hooded man and began to hit him with all her might with her fists. Pui! My sister! Why do the people I care about always have to die? Why my sister? First me and then my sister, why my sister, why? You took away my dignity, that wasn't enough for you, you've humiliated me and now you're taking my little sister away from me. Shadow! Iris continued hitting the hooded man whose face was already deformed from so many blows. The light in his eyes began to fade, but before that, he could see the image of Iris, furious, hitting him for the last time. Hey! And no san. My body was very weak, I couldn't move, everything was almost burning, I felt like I was going to faint when I turned slowly, the boy was no longer there. Why yeah. Nay-san? Iris slowly regained the brightness of her eyes as she stood up slowly and approached Alexia with a hopeful smile. And no, it can't be no. Alexia, nay-san Yoli. No! Alexia? Why couldn't I? Alexia and... Be quiet! The last smile of Iris had vanished in the middle of the moon sonata. It's your fault. Why do you always... You're strong! And I'm just a weakling, I couldn't protect anyone before and now I can't even rescue anyone. If only I were stronger I could. People only know me for you. No one knows me for who I am, no one recognizes me for who I am. I'm a swordswoman too. The person who was next to me is missing, and I can't even locate him because of these stupid homework assignments. Cid Kagenou's flashback. Some knights from Midgar managed to arrive and they would observe Iris and Alexia, but the latter with serious injuries on her back and one leg. She was sitting with difficulty with a heartbreaking expression. Despite the blood falling from her, she only had a heartbreaking look while she cried and squeezed the ground. Her nails dug in and a little blood came out. Alexia-sama, Miss Iris, what was a dash? Iris simply ignored the knights and advanced, passing everyone while holding her sword, which had returned to its normal form on her way back. That doesn't matter now. We'd better take Alexia-sama to the medics. She's hurt. And some knights took Alexia with them. She didn't resist and just walked, which was strange since Alexia always prevented them from taking her. But this time she decided not to resist for some reason. Alpha-sama, I think we can use her. Beta looked from the shadows along with some nearby numbers. Chapter 36, Remastered. Human Ruins and a Broken Heart. How do you feel, Alexia-sama? Alexia, who was already sitting on her bed, hugged her legs and looked down. Her eyes showed neither joy nor sadness. They were simply lost. She was in a mental dilemma, but at the same time, she wasn't thinking anything. It's like when a person looks at something and stands still for a while. A strange dilemma occurs, and at the same time, it doesn't. If we had to give an example, it would be this one. You'll have to stay in this room at least until your injuries heal. Fortunately, the damage wasn't too severe. The attack was somewhat deflected. If it had been completely received, it's likely your leg would be gone and your back would have suffered serious, irreversible damage. What the doctor didn't know is that Alexia had a small child with her, carrying her on her back. The child somehow cushioned the attack that Alexia suffered, avoiding worse damage than she already had. There may be some marks left behind, but we'll do our best to avoid them. Well, I'm leaving. Make sure you rest, Alexia-sama. The doctor left and left Alexia alone in her room. Wind blowing. Wow. So you're the princess of Midgar and one of those leading the resistance in Midgar? Shadow Garden? Maybe you dash. Beta was barely going to speak when Alexia launched herself at her at considerable speed. Beta dodged the attack and was a little confused but remembered what had happened before, so it's likely that Alexia thought she was an enemy after all. The common enemy Shadow Garden and Midgar had used her false identity, and the person responsible is someone as strong as the leader himself that she remembered. I see. Alexia didn't stop her attack. Beta noticed something strange. Alexia's veins began to stand out a little on her arm for no apparent reason. This surprised her. Also, her speed was slowly increasing. Alexia didn't seem to notice this detail. She just attacked without an expression, as if the only goal she had was to finish Beta off at all costs. Is he getting stronger? Is it some technique? No. This is something else. I'm also noticing something strange. His cells are. Alexia took off with a fierce movement, causing a large part of the room to start to be damaged. Beta noticed this and calculated that if Alexia caused a big mess, the plan of talking to her was not going to work, so she moved at great speed, hitting Alexia, knocking her out. That power deployed. Could it be that the cells of the devils and the descendant were activated? Certainly that detached power had potential. A valuable piece like this would be useful to us. I slowly opened my eyes. I didn't remember what had happened. My room was damaged. Was there an attack? The more I opened my eyes, the more I could see a blurry shadow with a female figure. You have already woken up. Who are you? This isn't the first time we've met. Alexia Midgar. When Alexia finally regained her sight, she saw Beta standing near her door. This obviously put her on alert, even though she had already seen her somewhere else. She didn't trust anyone now with the whole Shadow Garden mess. I see you don't trust me. Don't worry, I don't intend to kill you. Who are you? Do you work for Shadow Garden? What is their goal? Even though he works for Shadow Garden, do you think he would tell you that? Tisk. Our plan is to defeat the false organization that is overthrowing Oriana Midgar and the other nations. Fake organization? In Midgar Oriana, everyone has been deceived by the lie of that organization. But we, our organization, and he planned to put an end to all of this. What are you talking about? The original Shadow Garden organization plans a truce with Midgar so that together we can finish off the false organization. Truce? I'm sorry, I can't trust you or you all. It's only natural that you don't. However, the pain Midgar suffers is shared by us as well. The pain you suffer with Midgar? You have to be kidding you were comfortable while thousands died. It's the truth. Whether you believe us or not is your decision. Besides, if I wanted to, I would have killed you already if I had a plan. Even I wouldn't come here to control you, but I'm being generous by coming here and asking for your permission. How can I trust you? We have intelligence about the enemy, and we are still gathering the necessary information. Information? What are we up against? We may be facing hell itself. We may not make it out alive, which is why we need the cooperation of nations like Midgard to fight this threat. Still, I'm sounding very. If you don't join us, sooner or later Midgard and the other nations will eventually succumb. Think about it, Alexia Midgard. Beta started to move towards the window, climbed up and was about to jump, but Alexia spoke. I'll think about it. Beta finished jumping, leaving Alexia, who simply stayed in her room thinking. Finally, she decided to get up even though she hadn't fully recovered. She had bandages on her left leg and her back was also bandaged, although her leg had suffered the most damage. And a little her shoulder, although the latter was not in as bad condition. She stood up and began to put on her uniform, although she did not plan to cover up her failure with it. That is what she described as the wounds suffered in battle, the failure. Some time later. Thinking about failure. I haven't been thinking about what that girl from Shadow Garden told me lately. I've been thinking about several alternatives for why I might want an alliance, but mostly I thought about why they'd chosen Midgard to talk to them instead. I mean, my sister has more influence than I do, she might be a more desirable option. Especially because of the rumors. As I walked back through the shelter, I was checking to make sure everything was okay. Even though it wasn't my job, I wanted to be sure. Soon I'd have to go back to the meeting with my father and the others. Pachi, what should I do? This is a sad situation. There was a gathered number of people of the highest power of Midgard talking in the most expensive private room of Midgard, a refuge. Among them the king of Midgard was sitting while 13 mysterious people and more were talking about the future of Midgard. Midgard is being increasingly pushed to the brink of destruction by Shadow Garden. And we need to do something about this issue. I've been thinking that maybe we could ally ourselves with the Diabolos cult, maybe they. Stop. Allying with the devil cult always comes at a cost, especially for this kind of cost. We can't just ally ourselves with them overnight if we don't know their intentions. It would be a trade. They are our enemies. If we give them anything, they'll be closer to destroying everything. But if we don't receive support before Midgard collapses to the new organization, it will all be for nothing. Excuse me, but I'm having withdrawal symptoms. A girl with long silver pigtails and crimson eyes had entered through the door. It was the youngest daughter of the king of Midgard, Alexia Midgard. I listened to the conversation beforehand, searching for answers. I knew something was happening, that my father wanted to hide something from me. Perhaps doing this would be risky, but I can't afford to sit back and let more lives be taken. Besides, my sister isn't fit to be on the meeting with my father. I must do something. How long will I be their shadow? That girl, daughter of the king, had a goal. To save them all. The last thing she wanted was corruption and Midgard being destroyed. But more than anything, she witnessed the power of Shadow Garden. She knew how terrifying it could be to have them as enemies. If she didn't have something to say, her interruption would be unnecessary, but she has something to say. Her father gave a slight small smile as he remained seated. The father more than anyone knew that Alexia was the one with the most potential to be the future queen of Midgard than her own sister Iris Midgard, but what Alexia lacked was courage and leadership for decisions, especially the ability to learn from mistakes and continue something that her sister, no matter how strong she was, did not have. The power to handle politics was something that the king was looking for, and above all a noble heart that cares about the members and not for their status or strength but their safety, as the king of Oriana was. He wanted a strong son but also a brave one, no matter if he was not the strongest, but that he was humble and could be a leader that the entire kingdom would want. Alexia Midgard is prohibited from entering the kingdom's private room. Let her be a little. Understood. What are you thinking? Letting your daughter into a private conversation. What do you have to say, Alexia? Honestly, I listened to everything they said. When everyone heard those words, they were perplexed. The 13 Night Swords who were aware of this evidently monopolized and corrupted Midgar. The fall of Midgar was something they couldn't ignore. If they managed to pressure the king, they could seize power. It was only a matter of time. The presence of his children would only bring problems, because it wasn't planned. And in my opinion, I think we should make a truce with other cities. A truce? Do you realize that Midgar is now making headlines around the world as it is under attack by an unknown organization? Do you think an organization cornering one of the great nations would sacrifice its pawns without receiving anything in return? But allying ourselves with the Diabolos cult isn't an option either. They forget that the Diabolos cult takes advantage of desperate people to manipulate them and get closer to their goal. If anything, we'd be doing people a selfish thing. Miss Alexia, we're all aware of the risk. But if we don't make a decision, Midgar will collapse in a few weeks. Based on what information are you saying this? What did he say? You've all been saying that Midgar will fall without repeating. Could it be that you're doing this to take advantage of my father's kindness and force him to make a decision because you're all in agreement to give it to the Diabolos cult in secret? Silence. Everyone fell silent upon hearing the words of the king of Midgar, the highest authority, while Alexia listened. Alexia, you can't come to a private meeting and say information like that without proof. But father, haven't you noticed? These guys are just using you to make a decision. There's no evidence of such a thing. Also, watch your vocabulary. You're standing before Midgar's highest officials and special guests. You can't just jump in and accuse people. But... Alexia, leave the room. I'll talk to you later. Sure. Alexia walked back to the door with annoyance while looking at her father for the last time with her eyes of anger but also disappointment. I thought you were the king of Midgar. That it was your duty to save Midgar and keep it as good as possible. But I was wrong. You're just like them too. Alexia closed the door as she left. The king of Midgar only gave a small sigh as he took her 2 hands and placed them, resting his chin on them. I'm sorry, Alexia. It's for your own good. I can't let you be a target of the higher-ups, especially now. If no one helps Midgar, I'll have to do it alone. But I don't have the information or allies who can help me, and I still can't even find Pachi. Alexia hit the wall with her hand hard. I'm so weak. I can't even do something as easy as saving the city I hold dear. Alexia in her desperation remembered some words. The words of that albino with short white hair. The true organization of Shadow Garden and its goal of overthrowing the imposter. Among her thoughts, Alexia hesitated for a moment whether to accept this request, but this was the only viable option. She didn't know if they were trustworthy, and spying on them would not be a good idea considering they know everything about her. But she had nothing else to try, was to try or not. She also remembered her father's words. Make allies if necessary, join an enemy organization, and be their allies instead of enemies. If you get allies, the chances are greater. Maybe it was time to try. Was she ready? No, but if she didn't try now, she couldn't take the risks as someone who wants to save others. The Diabolos cult is not an option. I will not accept them, especially after everything that has happened because of them. Shadow Garden is a strange organization and I do not know their intentions. If I risk it, and they are worse than the cult in any case, if I fail, it will show that I was not worthy of being the princess of Midgar. It is an option or nothing. I made it. After several failed attempts to use Aurora's mana, I had finally achieved a positive result. My limbs were beginning to withstand more and more of Aurora's power, and her power was slowly becoming easier for me to control. But despite everything, Aurora's power was something too immense, even inexplicable if I could describe it. It's easy to say that not even in 100 years would I be able to awaken all of Aurora's power, at least that's what I believe. But it's not my intention to unleash Aurora's full power alone. At least I'll be strong enough to avenge my brother's death. Because for him, I will do everything and I won't allow those idiots to get away with it. Congratulations. You have successfully controlled 4% of my power. 4%? You've got to be kidding, I felt like this was over 100%. I can't even move after using all that mana. For a human, you've done well. The power I wield can't be carried in a human vessel, and very few are fit to tolerate it because they're not compatible. Your brother is an exception. Every time you talk about him, it only makes me prouder. He wasn't as weak as I thought after all." Claire had smiled, remembering that her brother was such a powerful guy according to what Aurora told her. More than getting angry for having lied to her, Claire also thought, "It's something he would always do, it was like that." Her brother in her eyes was a humble guy who probably didn't reveal his strength so as not to overshadow his sister. She still had the question of why she had so many doubts, but the truth that she would never see him again had opened up. "Hey, and I didn't realize." Small drops of water fell from the beautiful face of the black-haired woman with crimson eyes. Drops of tears slid down her face, sympathetic to the man who had once been her brother. "I didn't want to open the wound." "No. Forget it. Let's keep training. You're tired, you can barely stand. If you use my power anymore, you'll damage your body again." "I don't care. Let's keep going. I need to get stronger. I can't give up here." Claire began to slowly fall to the ground. Her body had suffered excessive exhaustion from the use of the Calamity Witch's mana. Some numerals spied on Claire from afar to keep an eye on her by Zeta's orders. You are seeing what had happened. They were surprised since the power that Claire had released was familiar to them. Also, it was such an excessive power that even several of them felt a chill. The power of the Calamity was something inhuman. Even if it was such a low percentage, it continued to cause fear in the world of those who once destroyed it centuries before. "Alpha-sama, the artifacts are in progress." "Yes. Thanks for the report, Ganma." "What's going on?" "It's just that. Do you think it's a good idea to trust that new girl Beta brought?" "Don't worry about that. I assigned Beta to look after her. If anything strange happens, we'll know about it. For now, we can't get rid of her, whether she's an enemy or not, because she contains very useful information from another dimension we don't know about, apparently, according to Beta." "I understand. I'm sorry for the insistence, but..." "Say it without reservation, Ganma, you don't have to be so formal." "Oh, okay." Ganma gave a slight sigh as she looked directly into Alpha's eyes. The two exchanged glances as what she had to say about the matter came out of Ganma's mouth. "Don't you think revealing our Lord's identity to your sister is a bit harsh?" "You're right. After all, I don't know if it's what he would have wanted." Alpha stood up from her desk and put down her paperwork for a few moments. She walked over to the glass, staring up at the pitch-black sky. "But the idea wasn't mine. It was Zeta's. She suggested something interesting." "Anything interesting?" "He says he knows the potential of Shadow's sister. But to complete his plan, he needs to reveal our master's identity so that his thirst for revenge falls upon her, and she can unleash her hidden power. Zeta sensed a great power that, even in her words, may be equal to or even greater than ours. But that's well, she is Shadow-sama's sister after all, but still don't you think that telling Shadow-sama's identity to her sister just to fill her with vengeful desires and make her our ally is something cruel? The mission that Shadow-sama had recommended to us was to protect her. It was never in his words to reveal something as important as her identity." "I know. But Zeta didn't stop as soon as I said those words. He walked away. And assuming what had happened, he went to reveal his identity, regardless of whether I gave him permission or not." "But isn't that considered a very serious offense on Zeta's part? Shadows can't disobey Alpha-sama according to the rules. That can be considered." "Ganma, I'm to blame for everything that's happened. What Zeta did was actually something I had already planned for." "But why you?" "I've been noticing some very strange behavior from Zeta lately. She no longer responds to calls. When she does, she rushes off as soon as the meeting ends, and she doesn't give me any reports on Cid Kagenou's training herself. A subordinate of hers does that. Perhaps the problem of the 7 shadows has been resolved, but there are still scars in our hearts. Without it, we cannot all be united again. The only thing I can do for now is for Zeta to cooperate and help us. To be honest, Ganma, I have no right to blame Zeta for something I caused." "But you didn't cause anything, you were affected and what happened was understandable." "Maybe. But the actions stay and can't be erased. Maybe if I didn't fall so fast and did something, we'd all be here sooner, and Zeta wouldn't disobey me. Was that all you had to say, Ganma? Why, yes. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Ganma bowed and started walking out of the room, leaving Alpha alone. I've done everything possible so far to keep everyone together. But it's getting harder and harder. I don't know how long I can endure maintaining the place we've built together over the years, which has been our home, on my own. Without you, it's getting harder and harder to achieve. I hope you come back soon, Shadow. The long-haired elf touched the glass window, hoping that one day her beloved would return to them all. One day, their efforts to bring him back were putting them all to the limit physically and mentally, and added to what had happened, it was increasingly difficult not to lose hope that he would return and return. But now they couldn't allow themselves to fall. They had to keep fighting until they brought him back and fight that organization without depending so much on him. Hurry up, we must continue until we get it dash. Zeta and her subordinates were moving quickly through the ruins of what was the ancient hero who defeated Diabolos. Freya, the human heroine. The place was complete ruins and there were many codes. Each code was difficult to read, but it was not something that could not be read. Only the human language could understand these words, but Zeta, aware of this, had her own methods. Zeta-sama, we have investigated all the ruins and codes, but we have not found any important information. Then keep looking. Zeta-sama. We have searched all the places. Keep looking. Didn't you hear me? SSI. The Zeta faction moved and began searching everywhere again, even though it was useless. The Zeta organization had been in the ruins for days trying to find information, but they couldn't find anything important. They were all tired and some wanted to leave, but Zeta wasn't going to allow this and threatened that if anyone withdrew from the mission he would kill them. The mission was, after all, to find something in these ruins that could give enough magical power to the artifact they were secretly creating to bring Shadow back. But the magical power for it was too high, and they could only with a member of the same Diabolos, but there was no time to search all the other nations for any trace, so they investigated the ruins of a hero. Maybe they could find something that would be useful to them. There must be something here. There can't be nothing. It's the damn ruin of the heroine Freya. And you're telling me there's nothing? Zeta began searching the surroundings until his eyes noticed something. He noticed some chains and a particular seal, but they were difficult to see in the ruins. Stamps? Zeta approached and tried to grab what was behind it, but couldn't. A field prevented it from getting closer. This is the human heroine Freya. She's not dead. Zeta smiled with a desperate look. She found something, and this was precisely what was going to help her a lot. I did it faster than everyone else. I told you, Shadow-sama. If it's for your safety, I'll even betray what I've obtained as long as you're safe. If you wake up again after this, you can end my existence if you so wish. Chapter 37, Remastered. Zeta materialized her spinning slime gun and slashed hard at the force field. But the field absorbed Zeta's attack, disabling any attempt to destroy it. The noise generated by the girl/beast caused the subordinates to hear it, and all turned towards where Zeta was. Seeing what was happening, they all gathered together. This shield looks like it's created by the chains themselves. So there's no way to break it? Wait. Zeta began to walk slowly towards the altar, his footsteps echoing throughout the place. Awea. I stood in front of the altar and could see her. Awea. Freya reached out her hand towards Zeta, trying to grab her neck, but Zeta moved quickly before that could happen. She's very strong. Not to be expected from one of the three heroines who defeated Diabolos. The ancient characters inscribed on the chains shone. It seems that these chains prevent her from being freed. Shall we release her, Zeta-sama? No. It's risky to face the human heroine without taking into account her powers. The only thing I'll need is a vessel containing the hero's blood or the blood of Diabolos himself. It seems we're lucky. We can use the heroine Freya and her blood to try to complete our plan. However, with Freya locked up in this place, we can't complete the plan where we agreed to do it. We'll probably have to do it here. Zeta moved as she looked at all her disciples. She raised her hand directly towards Freya while with a slight smile she gave a speech. Now the most important step of our plan for the resurrection of our god Shadow-sama has begun. The heroine Freya has been found. Now we will only need her power to find the master who once gave meaning to our lives. And it's time for phase 2 for the master. For Shadow-sama! For Shadow-sama! For Shadow-sama! For Shadow-sama! So you've come, Alexia Midgar. So you're considering the proposal I made you earlier? Just tell me something. Shadow Garden, aren't you planning something dirty after this alliance? How much distrust? That's the least I can know. I still don't trust you or the devil cult. I've never made a deal with Shadow Garden before. The least I hope is that you guys aren't like the cult and take advantage of the situation. As I told you before, we have no plans to betray our pact with Midgar. If you accept our help in return, we will offer ours without remorse. I'll choose to trust you just this once. Alexia hesitantly extended her hand to the dark-robed person named Beta. Beta also extended his hand in a sign of truce. However, we ask for something in return before the deal is made. Something in return? We need more forces to fight the new organization. Therefore, your political power will help us facilitate the alliance of more nations against the new organization. Don't expect too much. We are a nation currently under attack. I doubt anyone can hear us. Don't worry about that. We've already planned something for that. But when we need your cooperation, we'll ask for it. Something on your mind? What do you mean? Well, see you. It was a pleasure doing business with you, Alexia Midgar. I expect a lot from you in this war. Beta retreated, disappearing almost in the blink of an eye with his speed. She's so fast, I couldn't see her. Is there that much difference between someone from Shadow Garden and us? Whatever happens, I hope everything goes better. Yes, that's probably it. How is the investigation into the ETA artifacts going? Well, although I haven't been able to fully decipher what that girl is talking about, but I have an idea maybe it will take me a little longer. We've been at it for a few months now since we started the operation. Have you managed to figure it out yet? It's not so much that the artifacts are almost finished, the problem is the last artifact on the list is very complicated to make. The resources I have aren't enough. I have to constantly create new ones that fit the artifact I'm creating. For example, the artifact called Poison. I have to research about molecular topics to give me ideas. I can tell you're inspired. If that's the case, I can trust it won't be long. If you work hard and finish the research funding, I'll increase it. But this won't be difficult at all, I'll do it in no time. You change your mind so quickly. But tell me something. I'm curious about that artifact you're talking about called Poison. What's different about it from the rest? That poison is to paralyze the enemy you face, Alpha-sama. Paralyzer? With the many collaborators you brought from him, I noticed something peculiar. They had their power engraved in their DNA as if they were created from their power. Created? You mean he created them? Basically. But thanks to that, I was able to analyze his blood, which had the DNA of his power engraved in it, even if it was just a small amount. I tried various poisons. Dragon venom and others, but none managed to damage the cells. It's a nearly indestructible DNA. However, with that girl's help, I managed to find a more specific method, but we're still working on it. They're just ideas. I understand. Thank you for your contribution, and I look forward to further reports on the artifacts. Yes, I'm also expecting my funding increase. It's been 6 months since Shadow-sama fell and 7 months since we worked on this and 7 months since ETA is working on new artifacts with the help of 667. To be honest, I don't even know how we've been able to endure this time without losing hope. The only thing I can do now is this: pray that you are okay wherever you are. Alpha started to leave the ETA research room, closing the door. As soon as she left, she was greeted by Beta. Alpha-sama, I have a new report. The plans you suggested have been successful. The alliance between Midgar and Shadow Garden is a reality. That's good. It's time to think about our next move. A war is coming, I can feel it. Sorry for the question, but Oriana and Midgar are currently devastated by the false organization's attack over the past few months. By now, there shouldn't be many soldiers left. That's true. Although we have Oriana and Midgar on our side, their support won't be too helpful in their current state. But I have a feeling that the enemy organization will soon attack the other nations. With Midgar and Oriana devastated, it's obvious that they won't be satisfied. The only thing we can do for now is support both nations now and prevent them from wiping out the strongest troops and give them economic support and troops to prevent their collapse. As long as we prevent the most important pawns from falling, they can still recover. So you mean that? We will take advantage of the enemy's movement to gain allies. This is brilliant, Alpha-sama. Let's not declare victory yet. Oh, okay. By the way, can I ask something? Forward. How's ETA's investigation into the magical artifacts going? ETA hasn't shown us anything for 5 months. I ask that because if the enemy discovers our weapons, they'll find ways to stop us. Besides, it's not a good idea for them to find out we're producing weapons against them. Regarding your other question, it won't be long before everything is ready, as I thought. That means that once ETA is over and the alliances are complete, we will begin our movement. About Shadow-sama, I have a question. How is the teleportation device working? ETA hasn't said much about him. He says he's trying hard but won't give me any news until he's more advanced. I'm still worried about Shadow-sama. I hope the news comes soon. They will be. I hope they are. You brought a good amount as I asked. Hurry up and give me the teleportation device. I don't have all day. See. Ada took the small bag Zeta gave her as she approached a combination vault. Ada pressed a few numbers and it opened, revealing the device. It was approximately 2 meters tall, circular in shape, and edged with gold and white. So this is the artifact. I warn you that this artifact won't bring him back. If you want to bring the master back, you'll need his original body, but I haven't finished using it yet. I have given you the master's blood that you so desired. You do not need his body. But maybe if I open his skull I could. Zeta moved his claw pointing at ETA, which stopped saying what she was going to finish mentioning. The master's body doesn't belong to you. The deal was to give you the blood in exchange for your help. And then? Zeta approached the large device and took it with some difficulty, but thanks to his strength, although it was not comparable to Delta's, still his strength was very remarkable, and without too many problems he was able to lift that enormous device. I'm leaving now. I'll be back for the master's body soon. Don't you dare tell Alpha even a single word about this. See. Zeta retreated and left ETA alone. But before that happens, Ada began walking until she reached the back. As she touched the wall, she quickly pulled out a tracking device. Ada brought her pupil closer, confirming access. The door opened, revealing a secret passageway. It was hard to make this passage without the others noticing because of the noise I was going to make, so I made sure to take advantage of the time while Alpha-sama locked me in the barrier and people were forbidden from coming to see me to also create a sound barrier with my new sound-canceling device. It was a lot of work and I haven't had much sleep these past few days, but this is worth it. Ada continued down the steps until reaching a chamber in which there was a small blue mana crystal, and the lifeless body of Cid Kagenou was already there. I can finally begin my experiments now that I have your blood, Master. I will create a substance so strong it will kill whoever did this to you, but before that I will need to borrow your body for a bit. Chapter 38, Remastered. The war between Shadow Garden and a mysterious organization? Sometime later, in 1 month and a half exactly, on the outskirts of a beautiful huge place, more than specifically a mansion with fog covering around in the beautiful moon. A long yellow-haired elf wearing a beautiful dress like the moonlight was looking at the already beautiful sky. It's time. His thoughts were interrupted when he heard the door open slowly and calmly. It was new. Alpha-sama, it's time for preparations. The Queen of Oriana and the Princess of Alexia are waiting for you. Understood. The blonde-haired girl began to walk next to her assistant in her classic long dark dress with gold edges. As she continued leaving, Alpha felt a small pang in her heart. Ada's last words were that she would try to bring the master back, but nothing more. This was the day in which they had to prevent the enemy organization from advancing further, otherwise the false organization would now gain more power and the nations would fall, or worse. It was this day or nothing, however. Alpha knew deep down in her soul that without her beloved, the mission was probably suicidal, despite all the plans they already had in mind. But Alpha, aware that this might be his last mission and that everything they've built, like Shadow Garden, will be destroyed, decides to continue. At least if they fail, they'll be able to reunite with their master if the plan were to fail. This was his only goal and his only purpose for existing, to end what Shadow Garden ended. If they fail, it means that it wasn't even good for that. What is this place? It's huge and I feel too many very strong presences nearby. And it's foggy? Don't go near the fog and follow the main path. Otherwise, you'll die from the toxins. It's poisonous. Do they also have fog to prevent attacks? So this is the Shadow Garden organization. Alexia continued walking beside Rose while being guided by a hooded woman. They both walked until they reached the main building. The hooded woman left without saying anything else, leaving the two alone. Rose and Alexia watched several people in dark suits exchange swords and the constant sounds of magic clashing, which was quite surprising. The training ground was undoubtedly vast, and everyone's magical power was on a completely different level than their own. They are very strong. We're sorry to keep you waiting. The great door of the Shadow Garden mansion was opened, and an elf with long yellow hair like flowers and a long dress dark as the moon descended the stairs accompanied by two Numers who were dressed as maids. Are you the same person from the sanctuary? Alexia, looking at Alpha, was surprised to remember the events at the sanctuary when an elf with a similar appearance, very similar to Oliver, burst into Nelson's tournament with her comrades and ended his game. She was strong without a doubt, but knowing that she was perhaps the leader of that organization. Welcome, Princess of Oriana. Princess of Midgar. I have summoned you to this meeting to discuss our alliance against the new enemy organization. If you're going to get to the point, do it now. I'm busy looking for more citizens. Alexia exclaimed in an annoyed tone, causing Rose to become frightened upon seeing such an attitude since Alpha was her leader. And as a secret member of Shadow Garden, she knew the devastating power of the Seven Shadows. Alexia-san, you should watch your vocabulary. Huh! Alpha gritted his teeth a little but then calmed down while keeping his smile. He's with you. As you know, there's an organization masquerading as Shadow Garden, just like the Devil's Cult did in the early days. The new organization is a threat that, although it has been around for 7 months since its appearance, has already caused havoc at the national level. Both the nations of Oriana and Midgar have been affected by it. And it is already beginning to affect more nations. If this continues, there will be a collapse between the nations and a primary anger towards Midgar, which is the origin of the organization, but also perhaps the Diabolos cult will make an unfortunate move, taking advantage of the situation. 7 months. Oriana is not yet in a position to fight another battle. If Oriana fights under these conditions, the city could. I say the same, I refuse. Even if Midgar is in good condition, we are barely supporting the invasion and avoiding falling any lower. Besides, I don't want more deaths in Midgar. It doesn't benefit me at all to get involved in a senseless war where there will only be deaths. For that, we need your social power. We need the alliances that Oriana still maintains, even though there was a change from king to queen, to ally with you. But I don't know if the alliances will agree to join after all. The last time Oriana cooperated was under my father's cloak, with the rumors that I killed my father. You'll make it. The rumors were just rumors, and they've largely subsided since the misunderstanding was cleared up. We need troops, and if you can get them, you'll be doing us a huge favor. Alpha got down and approached Rose, taking her shoulder. She looked at Alpha in surprise, while Alpha only gave her a light, confident smile. Rose clenched her fists and, with a few tears, agreed. But before all this, I want to know something. Do you guarantee that we will win? Do you guarantee that if we take down the enemy organization, all this will end? We can't guarantee that. But what we can guarantee is that if we remain in the shadows, the nations will continue to be in danger, and Midgar and Oriana will ultimately succumb. We still have time to make one last attack with our troops and a triple alliance. A girl with long white pigtails interrupted the conversation. However, I have seen the power of Shadow Garden, and if you ask for help from two nations, it is because you alone cannot do it. Am I wrong? And if that's the case, even if we join you, that doesn't guarantee there will be many deaths, even the possibility of losing. The power I've seen from your organization is too much, and I'm no fool. This blackmail won't bring many benefits. It's just sending weak troops to die in the field against some monsters. We need something else, a weapon or something that will guarantee us victory if your troops couldn't. How do you claim it will be different if weaker troops go to the field? Alexia. That's why Shadow Garden has funded the weapons your army will use. Oh? What? As you've heard, Shadow Garden will provide support to the nations with magical artifacts that will support the troops in battle. We personally use those artifacts one by one, so you can rest assured that this isn't some kind of trap or blackmail. That certainly sounds good, but why do they insist so much on seeking our alliance and going to all this trouble? As I mentioned before, Princess Alexia, this is to obtain benefits for the three organizations. If we defeat the organization that causes havoc in their nations, they will be freed from evil. We will compete, and the Devil's cult will stop expanding when they see that they were defeated, halting their progress with the other nations that are in danger. But if you refuse to accept this collaboration that I offer you, despite everything, you are within your right to refuse. The blonde-haired girl climbed the steps again, leaving behind both princesses of Oriana and Midgar, while her two comrades accompanied her. If you're going to leave, wait for the nuns who will accompany you. The fog is toxic. If you try to cross, you'll die before you get out. Cid, I still need to know where you are. I need to be a better queen. I need to save everyone like my father once did. Right now I'm just a useless girl who complains and cries that Oriana has fallen. I don't know what to do. But no more of that rose, Oriana. Wait. Huh? I didn't refuse your proposal. What are you doing? Are you really thinking of joining Shadow Garden? Do you realize that we don't know what might happen if we do? The benefits and everything are too much. It could be a trap. Maybe, but if we don't try to trust them, can you think of a better way to deal with the problem right now? That is, Shadow Garden has asked for our help for a reason. They can't do it alone, and we don't have to fight alone. If we want to avoid deaths between nations, it will be impossible to avoid. In any case, we have to fight. The least we can do is increase the chances of victory. And I know that Oriana can't handle this problem alone, so that's why I will accept the proposal. TSK. Do you have any idea what would happen if we were fooled? Shadow Garden has already saved me more than once, and instead of deceiving me, they gave me more opportunities. Even though I behaved like an idiot before, they were still willing to forgive me. Their leader didn't kill me even though what I did was considered an offense. Therefore, I believe in them. In that case, Rose Oriana, it will be a pleasure to work together. Alpha stopped climbing as she turned to see who was 667 make her decision. The decision was logical. After all, she is a member of Shadow Garden whom Shadow himself had already brainwashed. A betrayal was impossible. But obtaining the alliance of Midgar was something more complicated. Are you sure? What, you won't betray us and take advantage of our trust like the Devil cult? The Diabolos cult is our enemy. It's the enemy of all. But now the most important thing is to confront this threat. And to answer your question, Shadow Garden would never imitate its enemy, logically. If you betray us, I will finish you all off, one by one, without mercy. Alexia-san, that means. I'll accept the request, but I'll have to talk to my father first to confirm everything. And? Rose smiled while Alexia just crossed her arms, looking in another direction. The reason why she accepted the request, apart from defending Midgar and having more opportunities, was because she wanted to be by the side of who was once her friend and protect her in case Shadow Garden took advantage of the case like the Diabolos cult. Alexia did not trust the two organizations, even the Diabolos cult for what they did and Shadow Garden for the mystery, but even she herself knew that if they did not face the problem now it would never end. In that case, when you finish consulting it, it will be a pleasure to hear your answer, Alexia Midgar. Yeah, whatever. Can I go? Accompany them to leave the secret base. See Alpha-sama. See Alpha-sama. Both maids quickly changed into their slime suits and started walking towards both of them. Here. Follow us. Both mysterious girls accompanied the Princess of Midgar and the Queen of Oriana to leave the place. Alpha-sama. Wasn't the original plan supposed to be to bring down Oriana's queen to make Shadow-sama the new leader? That will have to wait. For now, we'll need every possible collaboration for this war. The dreams will come after we recover what's most precious. But let's continue. SSI. Days later in Midgar. The king of Midgar was sorting through some papers while sitting at his desk. A girl with long red hair was sitting in front of him in his office. She was the daughter of the eldest king, the princess and future heir of Midgar, Iris Midgar. Why don't you accept the idea I'm proposing? Iris. I'm afraid allying with the Diabolos cult isn't a good option right now. If we gain power, we will win this war, we will win it faster. With your troops we can win. I will become stronger to prove that I can be a worthy queen. Iris. What does being a king mean to you? Someone strong who protects others. Sigh. A king must be wise in making a decision, considering the advantages and disadvantages. He must think of a backup plan in case the decision he makes isn't the best, but that backup plan involves Midgar more than anything else in the world. I fear you're making a desperate decision without considering the consequences. That's not true. Can you give me the information the Diabolos cult offered you in exchange for their alliance? More power. That's all? But either way, it's better to make a decision now. If we continue like this, Midgar will be destroyed, so I'll make this choice. If that's the choice you plan to make, go for it, but Midgar won't ally with the Diabolos cult until more details are provided. TSK. If that's the case, I'll prove to you that I'm a queen worthy of taking Midgar. Someone worthy of defeating Shadow Garden. You'll see it with your own eyes and change your mind. Iris took her sword and started walking out of her father's room. At the same time, her twin sister opened the door to find herself surprised to see her sister walking out with her eyes downcast and annoyed. Nei-sama! Iris stopped as soon as she heard that last name, and without looking at who was already her sister, she just stood still. What happened? Iris ignored Alexia as she continued on her way. Alexia looked at this in bewilderment as she re-entered the room where her father was already sitting. What happened? Nothing important. What are you here to tell me, Alexia? WL. I have more news about the alliance you proposed to me a few months ago. The fact of negotiating with some organization, the cult or Shadow Garden. But there's something I didn't tell you. Shadow Garden came to see me while I was in the hospital healing me. They proposed to ally with them, but I couldn't trust their words, so I refused. I tried to find another solution to improve Midgar in general, but I didn't find many ways. I hate to say it, but you were right, father. Without support we can't win Midgar. It won't be long before it finally begins to succumb to the attack. But I managed to contact them again. But not only that, the Queen of Oriana was also present, and they suggested a temporary alliance that would only last until the war we had against the other false organization that pretends to be Shadow Garden. She accepted, but I couldn't fully accept the request despite the benefits they offered us. The only thing they want in return is our troops in this war. It's just strange. I thought they were going to ask for something like Devil Blood, the heroes, or even financial support or a permanent alliance. But all they asked for is that. It's very little. But I can't trust them. If they ask for so little, it's because something might be wrong. That's why I need your advice, father. I need to know if the decision I'm about to make is the right one. Alexia, a question. Do you love Midgar? Huh? Yes. May I ask why? Because I was born here, but apart from my family, I didn't have good memories here. But since I entered the academy, I met someone who taught me many things. But also, the people here, during my time at the shelter, gave me the opportunity to get to know everyone a little better in general. I see. Why are you asking me this? Tell me something, Alexia. Would you be able to face something you know you can't defeat for Midgar? Would you be able to lead Midgar in the best possible way, even if it meant making an important decision, always thinking about the people? Yes, I would. I understand. But I don't understand, Father, why you dash. If that's the case, make the decision you think is most reasonable. Do you think Shadow Garden can be trusted? Honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure, but I prefer an alliance with them to the Diabolos cult, but I'm afraid a betrayal might begin. Sometimes a king has to make decisions, even if it means being afraid, Alexia. If you see that the nation is in danger and that won't change, we have to make a risky decision, thinking of the future of Midgar more than your own life. The decision you make will be. But shouldn't you decide that? In this case, I don't know both organizations as well as you do. So that position should be decided by you, whoever knows more about the subject and what's best for Midgar. Then I think I know what to do. Gracias, Padre. The white-haired girl with long pigtails left the room, leaving the king in his office. The king didn't stop her. Somehow, the king had a small hunch that this would be for the best. In Oriana days later. POV Rose. I was now in Oriana. I was afraid of what I was going to do. In general, I was afraid of whether people still trusted me, of whether I could look them in the eyes and say what I was going to say at this moment. But if I don't, I won't be able to look Cid Kagenou in the face, but above all, I won't be able to protect anyone. I won't be able to protect these people. That's why I must strive. I must overcome my fears and overcome this. Now I must be strong. I must be a queen who is worthy of Oriana and who prevents everything from happening. Rose-sama, people are waiting for you outside. I know. Thank you. I changed my clothes. Now I always had to go formal, and with a long, elegant dress. After all, I was the queen of the nation that my father left me in charge. 665 and 664 were taking care of me like my most faithful servants. I'm so glad that Alpha-sama allowed us all this. The least I can do for Shadow Garden and for my city, but also for my friends and Cid Kagenou, is a place that is not attacked anymore, that there are no more deaths, and that shows that it is strong on its own. I will no longer be weaker. I will no longer see my loved ones die definitively. I walked and reached my window accompanied by my friends 664 and 665, both of whom just looked at me with confidence. I decided to sigh and continue until I opened my window. As soon as I did, I heard the noise of all the people I had protected so much. Rose-sama! 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 I know everyone is confused and wants answers about what happened. Rose-sama. What's going on? We heard rumors that Shadow Garden is attacking Oriana. My family is missing and the police aren't helping me. What's going on? For a few moments the pressure made me unable to speak, but I remembered. Cid Kagenou wouldn't like to see me like this. In the words of others in my father's, Oriana is currently going through a difficult situation. An organization that pretends to be Shadow Garden is attacking Oriana. But not only that, Midgar is also succumbing to these attacks. An organization? Attacking two nations? That's why. We've collaborated and made a temporary truce with Midgar again, so we can finish off this organization together to prevent any more deaths. I'm so sorry if I'm asking too much and if I ordered you to go into battle. I know there have already been too many deaths, and I'm not happy with that either. That's why if you don't want to go into battle, then I'll come for all of you. I may be a useless queen, but I'll try to do something and not just sit back and watch more people die. I'll go too. Huh? If Rose-sama is going to battle, so am I. Those assassins killed my son. I won't stand idly by without taking revenge. I'll go too. I may not be very strong, but I don't want more people to suffer the same way. Me too. I'll go too. Why, yeah. Come on, Rose-san. Shouldn't you say a few words? 665. Don't be silly. Did you really think that after that speech everyone would stop helping their queen? Minus 664 sighed as he looked at Rose. We'll go with you to the front. You don't have to go alone. Girls. Come on, say it. SSI. In that case, let's all end what torments us so much. Let's fight alongside Midgar against the organization that is taking away our dreams and hopes. And. A girl with long light blue pigtails wearing dark clothing was watching from a distance what was happening. The operation was a success. Both organizations are now ready, Alpha-sama. Thanks for the Epsilon report. Beta has also confirmed the alliance with Midgar. It's time to reorganize everything and prepare for the final phase. See Alpha-sama.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.